So it's just about 6 o'clock on Thursday, September the 3rd, and I'm going to call the regular select board meeting to order. First item is to set adjust agenda. Does anybody have anything to add, subtract?
Yes.
You do? Oh, you said you did.
Item number 7, to pick a delegate for the voting at the VLCT passive and
Oh,
annual
right.
meetings.
Yep. Anything else? So could we have a motion to adjust the agenda to include an item 7? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to approve minutes from last time, which was August the 20th. Does anybody have any commentary on minutes?
Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year.
I move we accept the minutes for
August 20th.
August 20th.
Lucian's nodding in assent. Is that a second, Lucian? All right, and we have a second. So any discussion on the minutes? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is communication from the audience. So we have an agenda here, but we have a few people in the audience. If anybody here wants to communicate something, if you're not here to weigh in on anything that we're going to talk about later, if you'd like to communicate anything to us now, now's the time, and just state your name.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Hall. I live up 226 East Church Street, East Hardwick, and I guess why I'm here at the select board is I don't get very far with our police chief, and I don't get very far with our town manager. I don't know if everybody here runs the show, but he is our town manager. Sometimes I feel like he should be held at a higher standard than most people and set a good action for people in the community. And he hasn't been, honestly, and I want to bring it to your attention to see what we can do about it. I mean, Sean can get upset if he wants, but he loses control and he ain't able to keep himself under control and deal with people. And I feel that we don't need somebody like that representing our town. I mean, he picked a fight with my 64-year-old father that was having a stroke at the time and we didn't know it. And it was a while ago, and just everything is built up till now, and I think as a town we need to deal with this. Honestly. I mean, is that an appropriate, is that an appropriate action from our town manager to stand up and get in somebody's face and try to pick a fight with them? I mean, that's not an appropriate behavior, is it?
It's not an appropriate behavior. It's not a behavior I've observed personally. So,
I mean, it shouldn't be acceptable by our select board, correct? And I want you guys to weigh in on it, because I don't really know where else to go.
I can't make a judgment on just what you've said.
Well, I mean, if we want to,
Some context, we don't know how.
we were having a discussion with the zoning lady, Kristen Leahy, and we brought it downstairs to Sean. It didn't proceed. He couldn't do nothing with us because he didn't know anything about the zoning at the time. I left his office alone, myself, went up to speak with Kristen. Father followed shortly. Sean followed after. And within that time, I was standing behind Kristen's desk with her, and we were looking at paperwork and explaining stuff. My dad was set back, looking at the wall in front of him at the door where Sean was standing. And of course, this is my dad, who just stands there with his arms, folded, quiet. And at the time, he was having mild strokes. He went into the hospital, had major surgery over it shortly after. But I don't know if you guys are ever familiar with somebody that's having small strokes before it really happens. It makes them kind of lethargic and it slows their train of thought. And he was like in a zone staring at the wall, and Sean just all of a sudden out of the blue for no reason just gets up into his face and he's like, "Are you staring me down?" He's like, "Do you want a problem? Are you staring me down?" And I know this happened a while ago, but there's just been so much stuff that's led up to this, to where now I have to bring it to your attention, because we can't keep going on like this anymore. This town's being ran kind of shady and half-assed, I believe, and it's not acceptable and it needs to change. And if you guys don't want to change it, I just wanted to come here and offer my place. You can buy my house and I'll leave this town. But as far as having a town manager try to pick a fight with a 64-year-old man that's in a mild stroke, and me calling a police department and asking for help and not getting anything, it's unacceptable.
Is this something we should be in executive session for, a personnel issue, or what do you think?
I think, I don't even, there's so much to unpack there. Like, I don't know, I don't really believe that the town's being run in a shady or underhanded manner. I don't,
Well, I can tell you this much. When I report, I had the cops call on me back, I do believe the exact day was Memorial Day. My neighbor pulled a loaded firearm on me, and then he called the cops on me. Cop come up, gave me major attitude. I showed him the video. That's a felony. And whatever, I let that pass. But I've also asked Aaron 100,000 times, listen, people drive by me at like 65, 70 miles an hour, driving on my street, 25-mile-an-hour zone. Asked a million times, will you come up and just do something about it? Nothing, ever, ever. I mean, everything just keeps building up, building up, building up. I mean, it's not fair to me, honestly.
okay, so,
What do I mean, I don't know what you guys can do about it, but I mean, it's totally inappropriate for what he did.
I think we can take your report into consideration, and we can deliberate about it.
Well, I thought that's what this was all about, is to get to the bottom.
So this is a meeting of the select board. The public is welcome. This is but this is when the select board meets to discuss town business. And so we have.
This is town business.
Correct, and we've heard you, and we thank
Plus,
you
I
for your
got
input.
standing water. and
Sorry, excuse me, could you state your name?
Arnold Hall. Sean knows who I am. Tom knows who I am. For years, I've asked Tom and everybody else who took Sean's place before him to have some ditches dug up on my place to get rid of all the standing water. Well, right now, they got a problem with that norovirus, with mosquitoes and stuff, am I correct? Well, we ain't getting nowhere with having any ditches dug on account of, they claim you can't dig ditches there, am I right, Tom?
I didn't say you can't dig ditches, I said there's a water main that runs up through there.
Right,
So
we're
there's only a
talking,
certain depth that we can dig up through there.
well, how come we can't get the water to flow then?
It does, it flows down, I believe, to your culvert and crosses the road, correct?
No.
To there.
No, Eddie Keene and all the others filled those ditches in years ago. And Tommy Thompson down there, and Kathy and them, Ed Keene and all them people live over there in that trailer. They hauled a bunch of trash in, kept filling it in, and plugged the culvert that comes across the road from the old potato shed over through. Now I got all that water seeping underneath the road through all those clay pipes, and I can't even walk through there.
And that's the least of my concerns. My concerns is, since I was talking first, is the behavior of our town manager.
And
I mean,
we've heard you.
he's already apologized for it, so that means he accepts responsibility for what he did. That isn't right. I mean, you guys gonna just, what are you gonna do when you take it into consideration?
Well, it's hard to say that before we take it into consideration. And we're not gonna.
Well, what would the measures be of taking care of this? I mean, because I had a hard time with you today, Sean. You blew up at the police department when we were talking about this, throwing your helmet on, almost having a fit again.
So, I think,
It isn't. You got it on video right here. I sat right here one night and watched you almost have a fit, thinking that you're the god and you run this town, and you guys give me too much stuff to do and blah, blah, blah.
I
Like,
think-
you lose control multiple amounts of times, and that's not an acceptable
So
behavior.
I think we've heard you, sir, and I think we get the picture, and we can, the select board can definitely take this into consideration.
Another thing I would like the town to take into consideration is, you'll see throughout the world, everybody's like, defund the police. I highly disagree with that. I believe our police department needs more funding, and I think that's something that we should take into consideration and start talking about as a town too. I don't care about that library, other stuff. As far as our police department goes, and it's something I think our town should look into, and Sean's like, well, we meet standards. Well, sometimes it's better in life to be above the standards and to do more, you know, be a better person. And I believe as a town, if we have to kick in the money, I think when our police officers are out and about, they should have their cameras on 24/7, you know, except maybe not when they're going to the bathroom or if they're just sitting in the office or whatever. But as soon as they walk out that door and get into a cruiser or make contact with anybody, we should be funding them to have them truth boxes on at all times. And there should be no excuse to have them off. I mean, if a police officer's like, well, I didn't have my camera on at the time, then I really believe that police officer shouldn't have his job anymore. It's to protect them and people in the community. And I don't know, I mean, what can we take for steps there?
What is the current policy on that? I don't even know what the current policy
So-
is.
I'm not sure when I get into police policy, other than I would say at the select board level that we do have, I mean, I think fully a third of our town budget does go to the police. We, in recent years, have added a position to the police department. I don't feel that, I guess I don't share your view that our police department is underfunded, especially for the size of our community. But the select board has, you know, every year at town meeting, we have a chance to vote on our budget. And in the fall, starting usually in November, the select board will start preparing a budget. And I mean, I guess I would encourage you, if you really want to see an increased budget, to come participate in those discussions as well.
Well, I guess I'm not really gonna be here complaining about the budget at the moment. What I'm saying is like, why can't we do something to have our police officers have them cameras on at all times? It keeps everybody honest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, right?
Yep,
I mean, a
I
police
think that's
officer should
why they
have
have
no
them.
issue with keeping that camera on at all times.
Yeah, so,
So, I mean, can we
Right.
set forth a policy for the police department to do that? I mean, how can we go about that?
so the way that we typically go about running the police department is we have a police chief who's hired, who reports to the town manager, and the police chief, his responsibility is to run the police department. He reports back to us, we interact with him, but that's how the police department's run.
We don't have day-to-day say little things like that.
Yeah, but when we're insuring that, don't the town insure that police department?
We pay the bills, but,
All right, so that means as a community, we're liable for them as well. Am I wrong?
well.
I mean, where's the money come
insurance
from
company is.
when a police officer or the town of Hardwick gets sued for a police officer that might have done something wrong?
Mhm. So.
Maybe they did do nothing wrong, but it was still proven that, you know, that maybe somebody won a case. I'm just saying, I mean, Aaron, I mean, do you disagree that you guys shouldn't have your cameras on at all times when you're out in the public?
Yeah, I know.
Why
And
is that?
The reason for that is there's no storage capabilities for that amount of storage to be kept. So the cameras by policy, just to answer this quickly, the cameras by policy are on for any interaction with the public. So if they go on a call or if they're interacting with the public, then the cameras have to be turned on.
For no matter what the call is?
Correct, yeah.
How long do you keep that information?
There's different storage, I don't have the policy in front of me, but there's different lengths of time depending on what the call is.
What do they get stored on, like an SD card?
No, an SD card wouldn't even hold a day's worth of
Well, I mean, that's what
video.
I'm asking. I heard about the chuckles, but it's a
Yeah.
really serious question.
Yeah, there's
What do they get stored on?
Yeah, there's hard drives that they get stored on.
And how expensive is it?
It can be quite expensive depending on the amount of storage.
But they could be fairly reasonably priced as well, right?
No, not for that amount. There's no police department anywhere that I'm aware of that records 24 hours a day.
Oh, I mean, sometimes somebody has to be the first one and step up, right?
So.
I mean, this is how I feel. If a police officer isn't willing to make that choice, they got something to hide.
So I think, I definitely appreciate you bringing this to our attention, and, but we do have a lengthy agenda of items to get through tonight, and so, if,
So nothing will be done about it, is basically what you're saying, right?
I didn't hear me say that, did you? I don't know.
Well, I brought
I
it to
didn't
your
intend to
attention,
say
I
that.
highly don't appreciate how defensive and angry, you know, he gets pretty aggressive. Got some video of it too, so.
Okay,
Just saying, I don't really want to deal with that aggressive behavior anymore, but I am a taxpayer and I have to deal with the town manager, and you guys gotta keep him under control if he's the one I have to deal with.
thank you. Anybody else, like to communicate anything to the select board?
Yeah.
Audrey, can see your name.
Oh yeah, hi. I'm Audrey. I lived in Hardwick for the past couple years, but this semester I'm living in Craftsbury, but I'm in Hardwick quite a bit. I was just wanting to talk about some signs in town and just kind of my beliefs around them and why I think I want them taken down. I have a script with me. And I also have photos of the signs in particular. I'm going to talk about like why I think they're dangerous messaging. And this is, sounds pretty ominous. So there are a couple signs at the Peace Park that are pro BLM signs. Great, love them. But there are two signs that were put up recently that I think have more dangerous messaging, and I just want to go into the history of the messaging itself and why I think it should be taken down. One of them says the population of the world, how many people have been killed by COVID, saying that COVID has a 99.994% survival rate, and then has a mask that says think on it. The implication is that COVID is not as dangerous as it is, actually. And then the second one mentions how many kids per year are kidnapped and hashtag save the children. This one seems even less conspicuous, but this hashtag and both of these messages are very common beliefs of the QAnon conspiracy theory. So I can go into that if you guys want to know more about it, but I think the gist of it is this is a very dangerous conspiracy theory that is spreading online mostly, and these are two kind of messages that came out of this conspiracy theory. The COVID one is, of course, outrageous. It is literally denial of fact. And can endanger people if they choose not to wear a mask. We wouldn't be in this situation right now, we take this seriously, and we wouldn't be taking these precautions if we didn't believe so. The second one, the hashtag Save the Children, specifically comes from the conspiracy theory. It is what is called the dog whistle. So within these kind of groups, dog whistles are secretive or coded language for people who know the definition to know what it actually means, and for people who don't to kind of just not necessarily notice it as anything dangerous. So there's a lot of dog whistles in white power groups as well that normal everyday people don't necessarily pick up on, but other white nationalists do. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to bring up that I think these signs are dangerous. I think the messaging is dangerous. I understand that right now there's a lot of discussion about sign policy in Hardwick. I completely understand that there is some debate on what can and what should, how long, whatever. I do think though that these signs, while seeming completely, the COVID one is its own thing, but the other signs seem perfectly kind of fair, and like everyone kind of agrees that child kidnapping is wrong. The messaging is much more heinous and should be taken down. I'm both asking for permission to do so because I'm offering to take this sign down in particular, or just the town to be aware that this kind of messaging is dangerous and we need to do something yourselves if that's more comfortable for you all. That's about it I have. I just wanted there to be an understanding about why these phrases are hurtful and why they should be taken down, and do more education about the messaging rather than me just taking them down and not really being addressed. Again, I can go into more about QAnon if you guys want. There's a lot there. I would recommend there's an Atlantic article talking about the importance of QAnon, and all of the horrible things that have come out of it. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
And they're all gonna be discussing sign stuff later on
Yes.
also, so we'll get into the details maybe at that point, but.
Yeah, it's item 3 in our agenda tonight. So, yeah, we'll discuss the. So,
Yes, Haley, go ahead.
Okay.
I just have a really quick question. I'm just wondering if Audrey could repeat where those signs were, because I didn't catch that part.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a bunch of Black Lives Matter signs at the Peace Park, and they're kind of behind the bench at the Peace Park, blending in with the other signs. The lettering is kind of small, so it's not something you can notice necessarily from the road as you can with the other signs, but they're there. So. I didn't notice the other signs.
I actually invited the other day and looked at those and wondered what they meant.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
message them, I don't know what they said.
I think the COVID one jumps out definitely as like, this feels wrong, but the Save the Children kind of mentality and language comes from a much more horrific place. So, and the point is that you didn't understand it. So, yeah, I don't know if you guys can necessarily do anything about it, either telling me yes, I can't take them down, like with, or anything like that. I just wanted to, for you guys to know about these signs.
I think that is fantastic information for us as we head into our sign policy discussion, honestly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. And as far as taking signs down, I mean, we don't really, right now.
We'll discuss that more during the sign policy thing, I think.
Yeah, okay,
It's probably time to
right.
talk about that.
Yes.
Would you categorize these as hate speech or just fear mongering?
I think the problem is that, okay, I would clarify them on the surface as fear-mongering. The purpose of these signs is to make people question what they believe and to make them fearful of the world around them and the information they're being, quote-unquote, like forced to believe. That can quickly become hate speech. Something I talked about in my writing was how the QAnon conspiracy is also heavily linked to anti-Semitism. And this idea of like a global elite and all of that stuff, it is very heavily connected to the Save the Children idea. So while the sign itself is fear-mongering, its messaging is, if you dig below the surface, it's immediately hate speech. I don't think you can necessarily separate them as saying we can't remove this because it's not explicitly hate speech. I just think, and by also protecting it because it isn't necessarily hate speech is also allowing for these kind of hateful messages to persist. So.
And how do you, in your mind, how do you square this with the First Amendment? The freedom of expression.
Okay, all right. So,
Liz.
yeah, wow, all right. No, I absolutely agree. I do think that, yes, First Amendment is incredibly important, especially as an American. Evidently, that's why I'm here. I do think, though, is that the QAnon conspiracy has a body count. And your freedom of speech is not allowed to incite violence. It's you're not allowed to call fire in a crowded theater. Wonder what crowded theaters are like nowadays, you know? So I think, yes, people can have these messages. The town shouldn't necessarily allow for them, especially them being so hateful. The messages themselves are hateful. That's the point of them. Again, it's not inciting, or it's not hate speech explicitly. It is fear-mongering, because fear-mongering is hateful speech. So it is this weird kind of gray area. So I don't believe that this kind of language be considered freedom of speech because it is hateful. Its intention is to hurt, whether it's explicit or not. So.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Audrey.
but it's a lot to dive into. If you guys are ever bored, you should read the Atlantic article.
Yeah,
So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Very well said.
thanks. All right. Anyone else? Yes, sir, please state your name.
Well, one of the points I was bringing up is the speed limit on Spring Street. I'd like to see a 20-mile-an-hour one like you got over here on West Church Street put on Spring Street. We have little kids down there.
I'm thinking where Spring Street is.
That's just recommended, Doug, you can't lower it down no more than 25.
Yeah, those
Those are just recommended speeds.
Well, when they come up Granite Street and they hit Lester Fuller's house,
Yeah.
they stomp it. And they've been going 55 and 60 miles an hour, and this is no lie, up through the street, all the way to the top of the hill. And this has been going on and on and on. I've talked to the chief of police about it, but nothing gets done. The guy across the street's got 2 little kids, and they just come down through nonchalantly, just blowing down through there, and they use it for a junkyard. These guys coming down through there, no exhausts on their cars, anything. I see a police officer go down through there maybe once in a while, but they won't stop and use radar on the street. No way they'll do that. And I don't really go, I'm going from what he said. You tell somebody something, nothing ever gets done. There's always excuses about it. Another thing, when she was gone here, I talked to Sean Fields there the other day. You know, he went over and took the sign down that said defund the police department. Well, what about, and then he said, well, we don't have anything, you know, I took it down, he said. Well, then he said up here, where she was just talking about on the fence, that stuff should not be there because it's town property. And he said it was up to the select board to take it down. That's just what he told me.
He said that the select board is evaluating the sign policy right now, and those items, assuming they're not considered offensive, would be left there. And I know you had said to me you found a fence with a certain sign there.
No, I said, I don't care if the kids stand up on the corner up there, but it's a town park.
Yeah.
You can't even see the park down below with all the signs on the fence.
Right.
So,
And they shouldn't be there.
That, so directed at the select board.
so I think this is good for us to hear, good for the select board to hear from you, especially as we consider the sign policy tonight. So we, you know, much the same thread that Audrey's comments are helping to inform us. I think yours helped to inform us as well on the signs.
Well, yeah.
As
Yeah,
far-
I'm not against black people. You know, I was in Vietnam and we were side by side over there and stuff. But it's just getting to a point where it's just everything's getting blown out of proportion. As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, so, and as far as cars driving too fast, I mean, you may be aware that you're not the only one in town who thinks cars are driving too fast on their streets. And you may also be aware that like speed limits are just signs, and of course, you know, people should be following a speed limit of 25 miles an hour there now, but you're saying that they're not. We can't always, I mean, we have, at any given time, there are 2 officers on duty. We cannot always have those officers just doing speed patrol on all our streets. And so, so one of the things we're doing, and we don't have data yet, but we're doing not exactly a speed study, but the police department is gathering data about speeds on various roads, and that'll help inform us. And I don't know, I mean, I guess I'm not convinced that speed limits or patrols are necessarily gonna get people to slow down. And if we have real problem spots and that are borne out by data, I'm wondering if we're gonna end up doing like speed tables or some other permanent structure that just forces people to not, they just won't be able to go as fast.
They gotta do something down there, I'll tell you that.
Well, I wonder if the sign's on this Church Street now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have a schedule for the sign or what, or how easy it is to move, if you could
Yeah, once it's collected
put it
data
out there at some
there,
point. and
yeah, we
see.
need to put it.
We've already got places for it to go already.
So can you get your schedule filled out? Okay.
Kaylee would like to speak.
Kaylee?
Thanks, Casey, and I just want to first say I apologize for not being there in trying to, with school starting, make sure that I'm keeping everybody safe with some symptoms that I've had lately. But I just did want to mention that this is the second select board meeting in the past 2 months where we've had a community member come to speak to us about speeding in the town of Hardwick, and certainly there have been some community members who have mentioned, and I personally have witnessed some incredibly over the speed limit driving that's happened here in East Hardwick, and I feel like it's enough of enough feedback to do what you're talking about, Eric, but to also maybe at a different point just talk to Aaron about what can we do about some of the places where we don't necessarily see as much patrolling. Could we have a plan to kind of hit some of those places? I know that we're low staffed, but it would be great great to have a little bit of a plan, or to at least know what the plan is, so that way we can tell community members when something like this comes up that we are working on it, and they're oh, I just cut out, sorry.
So.
But that's all I was going to say.
Okay.
Can I speak for you?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Kaylee, I didn't realize you were going to be here, we're not going to be here tonight, but I do have a charge report. As we heard on West Church Street, that there were extremely high speeds there. I do have a chart report here of a week's time. We did have some other stuff going on today when we were working on the data, so we were only able to get a week for tonight's report. And I can go over that in my report, but it does show that some of the information we were receiving from the public may be somewhat inaccurate according to what we're seeing on an actual speed study. So we obviously have to direct to where we're seeing crime happen, whether that be speed, drugs, etc. And so, I think with Spring Street, what we could do is, also put that sign up there. It's actually going in East Hardwick, and there's one going on Ward Hill right now, so we only have 2. So we have to, move them around and go from there, but it gives us, one thing that's nice about the speed sign is it gives us, the accuracy of speeds as well as the times of day, so that we can, if there are issues, we can, enforce during those particular times of day and direct during the times to where the issues are happening.
Well, thanks, Aaron. I think what you guys did on West Church Street was really quick to respond to that community need, and I can ask you more questions during your report. I really appreciate it.
Sure. All right. Doug?
Just a question related to that. What is the cost roughly of the speed sign itself? How much does that run?
Between $3,000 and $5,000.
Between $3,000 and $5,000. Because what I've heard numerous times over again is that the speed sign actually slows people down because they see it and they slow down. And the number of people that have said to me, if we just had speed signs that were stationary, that would keep the traffic more controlled. And I know that something was wrong with that speed sign in the past few days, at least, because it was showing strange characters and numbers and dashes.
Just the battery.
Yeah, so I was just curious.
Those are rechargeable batteries, so we have to take it down.
Because what most people have told me is that expense per sign slows the traffic down on the streets artificially.
Yeah, I believe it is. Yeah, I would agree with that to an extent. It's not a deterrent for all, because some have used it, I'm sure, really fast to see how fast they can go.
So if somebody's really speeding then, this thing doesn't read the number plate.
No.
Which it should.
Yeah, none of them have.
Yeah, we don't. Definitely, there are cities around the world that just have cameras and
Oh, I know. Yeah, and they're outrageous expensive, like everything else is today.
yeah, but then you just get a ticket in the mail.
Yeah. So what if I got a number plate off somebody and call the police department? You'd ask, well, you gotta find out what they look like and everything else, right?
We actually have to be able to catch them at a speed that we can testify to them.
Yeah, so it's hard. It would be hard probably for the police to take it to
Yeah, we
testified that someone was speeding because you said they were speeding, and if you didn't have like a radar that showed a speed, it would be hard, right?
Yeah, not only do you have to be certified in radar estimation, the radar in the vehicles have to be certified and calibrated annually. So there's a lot to it, and then it's testifying in court to those things as well.
Yeah, so I think, as we go forward and we hear from you and we've heard from folks on West Church Street, right now, the thing to do with the equipment that we have is to monitor speed. That'll help Aaron direct patrols. But I think moving forward, I don't know. I mean, I guess, as I said, I'm not convinced that we're gonna solve this problem through speed limits or officer patrols, that we're gonna have to be a little more creative, and maybe it is investing in these signs that are static. Maybe we start with a couple and place them, and you get a nice little green thank you and smiley if you're under the speed limit, and otherwise you get the flashing too fast, or maybe we need speed tables, or I don't know, but I think it's unrealistic to think that we're gonna have police patrolling for speeders all over 2 towns all the time, and even if they move around randomly, what we're hearing is it's not always enough. So I don't know. I think it needs to be an ongoing discussion. I don't think we're gonna solve it in one go, but we'll have to keep working at it.
How often do these people go by? How often do they go by fast?
Every day.
Like
Oh, yeah, these.
a couple times a day, or?
Young kids that got flags in the back of the truck, you probably know who they are. Yeah. They're real patriotic.
Trying to run
And
everybody
they're
over.
flying up through the street most of the time. Yeah. And then if I have a speaker out there or a microphone like you got, you ought to hear the cars go by with no exhaust on them. I saw a guy pull in today down at Hall's Market, got an old beater of a Toyota pickup. The back fenders were going like this. He's got a piece of steel across the back for a bumper. And he gets out of things, slams the door, and I thought it was coming off. And he's got an agriculture sign on the back of it, but he's got a plate on the back of it too. Now, how can you have junk like that on the road?
That's why we have a state inspection system.
Yeah. Some of the cars I've seen, there's no way they should be inspected.
Right.
This one here was really a deal. But I'll be back if next week or whatever, see what happens.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your insights with us.
Okay.
See ya.
All right. Well, it appears we've driven everyone off, so let's carry on with our agenda. Next up is the town manager's report. Sean Fielder, do you want to give us the rundown for what your office has been up to?
Yeah, we did today, I'll kind of maybe work a little bit backwards, not necessarily chronological over the last couple of weeks. We did our pre-construction meeting today for the Creamery, the LVRT Creamery Project. That's been in the works for a couple of years now, so this is the section near the town garage and adjacent to the historic depot. Capital Earth Moving is our contractor. And they're actually this is for the community, make sure some of the neighbors in the area are aware. These folks are actually going to be starting to do their work next Tuesday, September 8th. So there's going to be basic improvements of the right-of-way to include some limbing of trees, any tree that might encroach that would be cut, some grading and improvements, and just general upkeep of that whole area from North Main Street all the way over to Slap Hill. So this is good.
And we get an upgraded parking lot.
Yep, that's correct.
Not that we have big events going on right now, but
We'll be ready.
we'll be ready.
And what's nice is this is obviously, everybody recall last year we did a little check on the process, and we are maintaining the railroad tracks adjacent to the historic depot. So that will be the only section of the rail trail where we'll have a historic depot, and then we'll have the tracks remaining. So that's going to be a good showcase, I believe. So with the section house, correct statement. So this is good.
When's it starting, Sean?
Next Tuesday, September 8th, they'll be starting their construction. They want to get right on it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it is good. I did moderate the PD community event, but I'll let Chief Cochran address that in his report. So that was, it was quite a lot to keep up. We had about 40 attendees, but again, I'll let Chief Cochran comment on this. We have let out a bid for the roofing, asphalt roofing for the public safety building. That is up on the town's website. It was put up on Front Porch Forum. We've also got it in various newspapers being advertised right now, so any roofing contractors out there that might be interested, the bids are due on September 16th. That's a Wednesday by 3 p.m. More information on the town's website. So we're not sure what we're going to see for bids. The fact of the matter is you hit September 1st, and just my observation is everybody is really scrambling, knowing what's coming in 2 months, just to try to get everything in. So what we've showed is we're trying to get the work done by the 13th of November. We'll see when our bids come in, how we're going to proceed. That's that report. I did organize back on the rail trail. This pulls in the town's USDA improvement grant. This was for the section from Slap Hill out to Pumpkin Lane. Just a reminder for everybody, the town has secured a $175,000 grant with USDA. With the quick update on that is with the state of Vermont having the funding allocated, and they're basically taking over the control of completing the entire remaining sections of the LVRT, which is approximately 60 miles. What the VTrans officials asked of us most recently is there a way that you could work with USDA to do an amendment on that contract? And again, the contract was planning to be going to bid as we speak, but and even prior, but with COVID and everything related to that, it got checked up. Well, the positive thing that happened is now we have the commitment from the state that they're going to get this done. So the quick on this is that we did get the authorization from USDA that we could do an amendment on this so that we would be in a position to not necessarily have to put this toward the construction of the trail, but we could put it towards some other asset that is linked to LVRT. So what we kind of honed in on, and nothing is set as of yet, is just as an example, are there other parking locations that we could maybe go after? Because the fact of the matter is we're going to need additional parking. Recreation is going to continue to be a need moving forward in this recovery phase. So without getting into too many details, I got thinking about down by the Yellow Barn, we'd already talked a little bit about, do we have an opportunity there to have a park and ride and parking spaces? So the important thing to know now is we've got some time. We're not going to lose our grant. We've got an opportunity to still be using the money inside of the community. So that's a really good thing from my perspective. Real quick, and then I'll keep going on 3 or 4 more other bullet points. We have, in collaboration with VAST, the town crew has taken a couple of steps to make sure the new bridges are, the apron elevations are correct, and then also VAST agreed to help us on reimbursement of one culvert. They're going to cover the cost for the Bailey Bridge ditch, if there's a bridge just to the east of the Bailey Farm Road. I said Bailey Bridge, Bailey Farm Road, excuse me. And the highway crew put effort into this so that particular location is no longer an obstruction. And we had one other sinkhole, and again, VAST is helping support on the costs right as we speak. It's not perfect, it's not done, but you can go now, from Hardwick out to East Hardwick on a bicycle or walk. You'll be able to cross-country ski this winter. It's something that we're going to be able to start using this more regularly, if you will. Eric?
Thanks to Tom and his crew, because that really,
absolutely,
those last little pieces that you guys did, you change it from like, okay, it's almost passable to now it's actually passable. So really appreciate that, and appreciate your working with VAST on this, Sean, to get them to cover the cost. Because as you said, next year, VTrans is going to come through and construct the whole trail. Well, everything that we've done helps them further along, but really it makes it ready usable a year in advance.
I don't know if this is the time to talk about it, but I was talking with somebody on Snowmobile Club, and they were talking about how to get downtown again, which we've already covered.
Yeah.
But one thing that they brought up that I hadn't heard of before, maybe you all talked about it, is that if they could park somewhere over on near the electric department, or somewhere where they could look down the street and see downtown.
Yeah.
But park their machines
Yeah.
over there. And I just thought that might relate back to the money.
And
we
then
were talking
walk.
about. And then they'd have to walk down, but you at least see their destination.
And this person thought they would walk?
Well, he was hoping actually to get further downtown,
Yeah.
but he said that maybe as a first step or something, or I don't really know.
I mean, I think this is something that we need to consider to discuss too, especially with the, as Sean previously mentioned, the USDA grant that now is not going toward construction of the actual trail, but could be used for ancillary things. And if in my mind, yeah, parking's a big deal, but also if we could find some way to funnel people downtown, that'd be awesome.
Right. And the access, as we discussed before, was pretty hard for actually getting downtown.
It is, but
Just something,
Maybe we
balloon I
can think about
floated
some-
with Tom, and I just know there's a lot of logistics here, but this is, I guess it's unique to the snow machine population. You know, could we get them from where the fire department is now? If we had a sidewalk on, or some kind of a path on the river side of that street, maybe that's another chance where you can get them to the village parking lot. But, you know, there's a lot of logistics here. I think with our grant, what's nice is we're gonna be in a position to kind of evaluate what's, you know, how can we better, what's another way to use this funding wisely so we can ensure, you know, the visitors that are gonna be coming through on this trail, whatever season, are gonna be stopping and patronizing the businesses. I mean, that's literally what it's about from my perspective.
How much is that grant?
175.
Oh, really? That's a chunk of money.
It's substantial.
Yeah. And we have a match on that, or how does that?
Yeah, we do. So yes, we do. The way it's written though, a lot of the work we've already done and put into the trail covers the match, like other things that we've done, and we're not quite there, but I think there's reason to believe that we'll have the match covered. Like it will have been spent. The match money will have been spent on things like the Creamery Road project that Sean just discussed, the bridges that were done.
So if everybody recalls, some number of meetings back, we had this discussion, and what we're looking at is for our cash contribution, what we had determined at that time was, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but what we had decided is we'd be in a position to use some of the sidewalk line item, if we needed to, for that town contribution to make the project whole, if you will. So even going into it this summer, we knew we were in a position, assuming everything had kept on target with COVID, we were in a position financially to cover it. But it's just, everything's messed up, of course, with COVID.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to derail you. I just thought it was relevant to that, what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of thing that we should all, like, pretty much everybody here should, if you see something, if you're thinking about it, if you could think about ways that, the meaningful ways that we could use that money to help people access the trail, help people on the trail access downtown, that would be good.
Okay, on LVRT, just real quick, some wastewater collection system preventative maintenance work this week. We are going to be scheduling on some improvements to the well pump house down on Wolcott Street. That was some information coming out of our sanitary survey, so we're looking at probably late September. Tom and the crew working on that. I just wanted to comment on the Yellow Barn project in collaboration with our regional support, which is Allison Lowe at NEKD's Northeast.
NVDA.
Thank you, NVDA, sorry. NVDA, the Regional Planning Commission. We did put in a grant request for the project, Regional Forest Economy Partnership Letter of Interest. It's an NBRC sourced fund. The group actually put in for a $1 million ask. I think Eric commented at one of the meetings recently that, you know, we're still as a group on the Yellow Barn, just trying to figure out how we can close on our construction cost estimate. There was an overrun there. And as you can imagine, with the disruption and unknowns of the economy, you know, with the tenants, we got to just get the numbers in order, is how I would say it, before we can, you know, get ourselves in a position to go to. We're trying for breaking ground in spring of '21. So there's a lot of moving parts, and this is not unique to the Yellow Barn project. We're seeing it with a lot of construction and, you know, general projects, if you will. So
So I'll just add to that that there's I mean, basically there's a gap between expected project cost and the funds that we have. And so how do we close that gap? We're going after more funds. We're looking at trying to reduce the cost of the project possibly, if that's a viable option, you know, all options. But we're definitely optimistic and shooting for a groundbreaking summer of 2021. But we need to basically get most of our ducks in a row by this October, like next month, in order to do that.
What's roughly the percent? So what happened is building materials went up is basically, is that?
Yeah, so part of it is building materials went up, and part of it is as there was some design creep where we added a little more space here and a little more space there. So like the cost per square foot went up because the cost of materials went up, and also our square footage went up. So it all kind of compounded that. Plus, it doesn't really help that the State Department of Transportation, when they replaced the bridge there by the Jackson Dam, they buried the old bridge at the Yellow Barn site. So it's not.
And we get to deal with it.
It's not awesome to build on, apparently, or the engineers don't think so. Anyway, Doug, you had a question?
How big of a gap is there, roughly?
So there's roughly a $3 million gap for the distance between the what we had funds we had secured and the new cost estimate that came in. It came in quite a bit higher, and so we're looking at grants. We're looking at taking on debt, not the town taking on debt, but the project takes on debt that then is repaid through leases.
So the original project was, I forget what it was somewhere around 10?
8 or 9, something like that.
8-7?
8-7, yeah, it was pushing 9, and now we're up closer to 12.
12 or something, yeah.
Exactly.
So that's a 33%.
It's a huge jump. We were shocked. So, but like I said, we're still optimistic that we're gonna get a good project done there, and we're working on it.
I mean, we're still trying to evaluate, if I could just add this, that that shouldn't be taken to mean that we're gonna automatically go at the project at that new 12, you know, whatever that
Right.
new number is. I mean, we're still trying to do, all right, scale it back. I mean, we gotta be economical, right? So, and we're really trying to evaluate what the options are.
Allison Lowe honestly does most of the heavy lifting on all this.
Yeah, big thank you to her and NVDA. I have just one further thing, if it's okay, the suspension bridge. This just came, I don't know the exact timestamp, but I tried to get the general conditions report from DeWolf Associates a little bit sooner, DeWolf Engineering Associates. It just came maybe a half hour before our meeting started. So select board members, I didn't get a chance to get it sooner. The key thing, I believe, at this point is that I'll just read the last paragraph. Based upon my visual inspection and subsequent calculations, it is my opinion the bridge should be closed to public access until repairs can be made. Furthermore, initial evaluation indicates that repairs are likely to be extensive given the decay discovered throughout the bridge structure. In fact, it is likely that replacement of the bridge will be less expensive than repair of the existing decay. However, given the historic nature of the bridge restoration, that may be a preferred solution. So the report for now is we're going to be maintaining a closed condition until we figure out our path forward. So that's coming from the bridge consultant.
I thought wasn't there a lot of work done on that bridge not that long ago?
Decking on the sides, right?
Oh,
It
right.
wasn't-
A little bit on the cable, up on top, but that was it.
No,
Oh, it wasn't like
not-
No, it
restringing the
wasn't
cable?
completely rehab, no.
It was
Not
not.
structural work, no.
I mean, I do remember you guys doing the decking on it really recently, but I'm thinking more
Yeah, a
like
couple
10.
years
Well,
ago.
you had to redo some of it with the nails were all coming out or something.
Oh,
but-
that's right.
But,
Yeah.
it was,
But like 10,
when Rob
10 more
Lewis
years
was,
ago?
when Rob Lewis was here as town manager, that's when the sides got redone with the sort of fencing thing and the higher, and those things got,
but it wasn't
that's when
a
that happened.
complete structural.
No,
It was not.
no, it was sort of almost,
Has that ever been done, or is this the?
Not that I know of.
no. Although when I was
1915.
10, that bridge looked pretty rough, yeah.
1915,
1950.
105 years, it's probably time to redo it.
Probably time to give it some love.
Yeah.
So, I already mentioned this to Sean, but if anybody can think of a way in which that connects to the LVR TV, I can think of some ways.
I think there's a way. I think maybe we should form a little task force around it and try to.
Because we do have some money to do stuff related to the LVR TV.
Well, I
Anyway,
think there's a way.
just throwing it out there.
And then there's potentially historic way. I mean, there may be some way.
So the other thing that came up today is, recall with our Creamery Project, that's earmarked money from way back in the day,
Yeah.
and I made a point of saying to Scott today, Scott really contacted V-Train, Scott, if there's any money left over, we could use it on this,
Yeah.
so I brought it right up today.
Good.
And I haven't had a chance to dig in on where, how do we, I mean, obviously, select board's gonna have to have some input and give me some feedback, what your preference is, and then we'll have to go a bit further on just, we gotta have some planning here to figure out how we wanna go.
Yeah, we'll
I'd
have
like
to figure
to propose we have schedule some kind of a meeting where we talk specifically about this. Maybe in a couple of weeks or something when we've had time to.
Yeah.
And
Do
just
some
very
Have this as an item on the agenda, or you mean a separate meeting?
I don't know. I mean, depends on what the agendas look like, I suppose, but.
Let's put it let's try to get it on an agenda item for a future meeting, and we're gonna, before we could make any decisions, we're gonna have to have a more complete engineering
Estimate.
report that gives us some options and
Right,
estimates of
right.
cost and stuff.
I think it's important to know now too, I mean, obviously, we've got some other things going on in the community, so, as an example, we're at a point where we've gotta do something with our public works garage. I'm not bringing this up to complicate the discussion, but, we just have to make sure we're not, there's priorities, that's all I'm saying, so that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, we have a lot of stuff and we're also gonna be discussing a report on our wastewater treatment facility.
Yep.
A lot going on.
All of it expensive.
Doug, you're good, okay. All right, is that it from your report?
Yeah, that is it.
Excellent,
Any
thank you.
Questions for me?
Thank you. So Tom Fadden, you're up next, and I know I saw you guys out in looked like there was some sewage happenings down there, or water or something, so I don't know, what have you been up to?
A lot of poop pluggage.
Well, poop luggage, yes, does happen.
Well, we were doing some other maintenance too on the smoke test from last year.
Oh, yeah.
One was up by your place, if you didn't see that hole up by your place today.
I did see that.
So that was
was
one
you
place
guys?
that the pipe was broke.
Oh, that's right, I remember the smoke coming out there.
Yeah, so that got fixed and repaired. We had a place up on West End that we fixed and repaired at the same time. Tops was having problems down there, so I should say Mike and Ed was taking care of all that while we were out in the grader. God, where else did we go? Oh, down on South Main, we had problems down there.
That's where I saw you guys.
Yep. So there's a problem down there with the sewer. And while they were doing that stuff in the village, the rest of us were hauling gravel and doing our roads up nice. We were hauling it away about as fast as they could crush it, so. And Woodbury came over and gave us a hand for hauling, there
Nice.
for payback.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting Cape Brook Road all completely redone, so that road looks pretty good up there. Then we switched over to where we did the other ditching for the year. We got Wapanaki and the whole length of Tucker Brook all completed and done. People couldn't believe we were up there working on that road, but I told them, I said it was time. So we got that done. The other places we've been is up over Bridgman. We graded and hauled some gravel up through there. The upper part of Town Farm Road, got that. The other part of Cobb School Road, we got that done. Of course, mentioned there a couple weeks ago, we ended up doing Montgomery Road, that's done. We ended up doing from Center Road up to Hardwick Farms, getting that graded and all gravelled, and then from Hardwick Farms down through Porter Brook, half of that done. And today we switched over and did Hopkins Hill, got that graded, and we gravelled basically from Scott Road all the way up to basically almost to the top of the hill. So.
Oh, that's good.
That's
So
it?
that's it. That is all we've managed to do.
On the, I want to just throw this out there on the, just for a reminder to everybody who's on our public wastewater system, I had posted on this a number of times and we've been doing advertising on this. Just really, it's number 1, number 2, and toilet paper down the drain. And literally, that's all we really want to receive. You know, anything else that goes down, as an example, the wipes, you know, although I think those might be in short supply, so maybe not an issue these days, but wipes do not degrade in our system, and they literally can plug our pumps up, and, you know, it can lead to these issues of clogging our lines. You know, we do our best to keep our system functioning properly, but if you can just help us out, and it really is designed just to receive number 1, number 2, and paper. So just want to put that out there.
Yeah, the flakes are not paper, they're a
They do not
man-made
break
fiber,
down.
they don't tear, that's why, because they're not supposed to be flush.
Well, the problem down at Tops was sort of a bunch of stuff, and luckily one of the managers was there watching it flow through, and so he was supposed to remind everybody in Walgreens and in his store that, you know, what is supposed to be done down. So we told, because we unplugged our side, and then we also helped them out because we went up their sewer line and unplugged them, and we basically said this is free, you know, but next time, it's all on you. So, but anyways, besides that, like Sean said, we worked on the rail trail and we got that done. The guys went back up on the rail trail today. We got that all seeded and
Yeah, that looks really nice.
some stuff down off the side so it won't erode and stuff. I think that's about it. Besides, we had a truck go down, but not a big deal, just a fan belt. I think that's it.
Paving the 3rd week of September,
Yes,
right?
yes, the paving's supposed to be here the week of the 20th.
Wow, it's late.
Yeah. So that's
And
what we
and
get done.
can you remind us the main areas that are getting paved?
Basically what we call the entire West End area,
Okay.
which is Woodbury Street, Hillside Street, remember some of the Union Street?
Yeah, that whole area.
Yeah, that whole area there, and West Hill.
West, okay.
So all these
quite a
we
bit.
take care of. Yes. Yeah, bidding came in good. I think we're what, 160, I think? So we're still 20,000 to the good.
Okay, awesome. Questions for Tom? Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate all your work. Next up, Darren Cochran, do you have a police report for us?
All right, you have the incidents themselves. Report is 148 incidents. One of those incidents was, well, actually this month, as you know, we did a warrant on a house on Glenside this week. And charges resulted from that as well, drug-related charges. So we did that.
Yeah, we helped with that too.
Yep, actually, thanks to Tom for helping us out on that. We did, the 26th, I think, was our forum. We did do the forum. Community forum.
Community with Hardwick and Greensboro.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks to Sean for helping us out with the technical stuff, because it went well.
Great.
Just in my capacity.
So, yeah.
Watch the weight room, watch the admittance, run the questions. It's a lot to keep up with. It was good though. I mean, it went fine.
I found it difficult in some ways because the questions, I was on my phone and the questions would come up on the phone but then disappear, and I'm trying to talk, so I'm trying to, keep that question in my head, but yet also, for me, it was different. I hadn't done that before, so, but I think it went well. Sean thought 40-something people, maybe a lot.
Yeah, I just did a quick head count based on what I saw for connections, and I could see majority of the folks, so I believe it was 40 individuals. Some of them were 2 people at a given machine, but I think we had about 40 people there. That seemed to me to be a pretty good turnout. Both Hardwick and Greensboro residents.
Great. So we did that.
And that was recorded, I think
that's
someone told me?
I believe so,
It is up on Hardwick Community Television, does have the event archived, so if you go to the HCTV website, it's up now.
Great.
If you weren't able to take part. I know there was another school event that night, and we just, unfortunately, we stamped that event, but it is archived if anybody wants to see it.
One thing that came out of that, and Lucian had thrown a couple questions my way about website, et cetera. I had actually already started looking into, just a few days prior to that, preliminary looking into website design, et cetera, for the police department. So I've just continued on that path. That actually came out because some people had wondered, I don't remember, it was about policies, and there were some things, you know, questions that came out where they could see them, and really the only opportunity we have right now is to come to the office to see them. If it were to go on the town's website, it would bog it down. We're 50 plus policies alone that change lately quite often. So I think that amount of data on the town's website, and generally they recommend the police department having their own website as you're posting, you know, press releases and your policies and updating policies, et cetera, et cetera. So I actually talked with a company that does the Vermont Chiefs of Police Association website and public relations. They're actually a public relations company as well. So I talked with them, and I was very surprised at how relatively inexpensive the cost was to do that. So just, you know, I've got some pricing from them, and they're familiar with Vermont, and they've got some Vermont departments and so on. So just preliminary looking into that, seeing if I have it fit into the budget anywhere, et cetera. So, but something like that would allow, you know, for more things to be posted. We could post our, you know, incident reports that we give to you, you know, monthly, et cetera. Those things could all be posted on the website. So, so we'll continue, you know, working towards that as well. One of the things that just briefly, VLCT came out with their work towards, you know, endorsing some changes in 21st century policing, you know.
That was really recent, right?
That was yesterday?
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah, I think so, I just read it.
And, you know, it was interesting, Sherry had sent back on that email, and I had seen some preliminary stuff, but I hadn't seen what Sherry actually shared back.
And I got that came from VLCT because I'm a select board member. I don't know why you guys don't get that stuff.
Yeah, I get it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't, maybe because maybe I'm not on the same mailing list or something, maybe, but it was interesting, and I read through it. I actually printed it off. I read through it. Something that I found interesting, and I think is worth pointing out, was that we actually are already doing a lot of things that are already recommendations.
So that was my reaction when I read it too.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, our police department already does a lot of these
Right.
things. So
The hiring practices that they labeled, we actually
Yeah.
do every one of those things in that hiring practice that's already done. The cameras, we were actually probably one of the first to actually get cameras in a policy, et cetera. You know, so now we have the most updated cameras in the cars. We have cameras on the officers that actually integrate to the car, so you get a panoramic view, and you're getting more than a 2D look at what's happening in an incident. The cameras actually sync up with the camera in the car, so you're getting different points of view on that video. As courts have shown that a video does not always show the whole picture, even though you think you're looking at, you know, the whole picture, there's really other points of view there. And so the cameras are becoming more and more advanced, and right now we've got the most up-to-date ones. So, you know, we're good about the cameras and trying to do all that ahead of some others. We pushed that envelope. So, and there, you know, there was a few other things. I won't go into all of it, but
It seems like there were some good things, I'm sorry, about enhancements that they're suggesting for the training. So like doing things like alternative non-residential training programs to try to encourage people maybe who have families who might want to pursue police.
Yeah, I know they've talked about that over the years. They've tried different models at the academy. They've done more of a collegiate style, et cetera. I don't really know enough to have an opinion on whether I think it's good or bad at this point in time, but depending on what they come up with.
That they're talking about it again. And then cultivating guardians rather than warriors.
Yeah, and that's really what we should be doing anyways, you know, is going away from the warrior mentality more to a guardian mentality and some of those. So, yeah, I was, you know, I think we're doing a lot of that's in here, not everything. I think obviously people have new opinions, and we, as new studies come out, we progress from there. So, but I did think it was an interesting report that came out. So I was glad Sherry had
So now apparently the governor's going to be releasing his executive order on police.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
This one I thought was good, and but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, he didn't have a date last I had heard, or a time when he was actually going to release it. But and then the last thing again, it was the speed charts from West Church that I have. Again, we had some stuff going on today, so we weren't able to get, Corporal Mitchell handles all of this technical stuff for me and does the speed signs, so he was busy this afternoon and literally dropped these off to me just before I left the house to come up here. So the first chart I can't answer questions on because I don't know what how that equates. The second chart is daily average speeds. So that shows you your daily average speeds for each day of the week. On the next page, you have total daily vehicles, which is 6,444 vehicles.
That seems,
That's stunning.
yeah, that
That's a
seems
lot.
impossibly high, honestly. That seems higher than the count we had for Route 15 down by the Yellow Barn.
It is.
I can tell you pretty much everybody that's coming this way goes that street rather than come up through the village and come up through.
Yeah, but still.
There's a lot of traffic on that road, but.
Yeah.
This seems too high, doesn't it?
That's in 1 week.
That's what Mitchell told me.
No, that's it. That, the label there though says daily.
Says what?
Daily.
Well, it says below daily, the top says weekly.
Yeah, I think that's.
Oh.
I think that's the week. Yeah.
This is
that's-
telling for the week, I think
Oh, okay, for
footers
the week, I could
inaccurate.
believe that.
Yeah.
So that's a little under 1,000 per day.
Yeah,
This is still a lot.
that's a busy street.
Yeah.
I think it's curious that Friday is the biggest day, and that's the
Slowest,
day
it's the
in which-
slowest day too.
It's the slowest day. There's nothing like a traffic jam to slow down traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had number of speeders that were over 5 miles per hour, over average were 69. Your number of speeders that were 10 miles per hour over the speed limit, which was 25, was 5
Yeah.
in a week.
Yeah.
Well-
It only takes one of those
To ruin your
to
day.
have a tragedy, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that we have,
But-
we have 69 who are going over 30 miles an hour through there, so that's, you know, on average, that's 10 a day who are going over 30,
Over 25.
over 30.
Your
Right,
numbers-
if they're doing 25 plus 5.
Right. And then your speeders that were 10 miles, yeah, well, yeah, it could be the way they're doing that chart. You're right there. So then you have, the interesting point kind of speaks back to what you were saying, Eric, is that, enforcement is not going to stop every speeder. You had 6,444 vehicles in a week's time, and you had 10 vehicles that were going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit out of those 6,444. So to sit there and be able to catch that needle in the haystack is virtually impossible, especially when we have other things such as search warrants for drug
Right.
activity, et cetera, going on. So,
But on that fourth page, it does give you a time frame, no?
it does,
Of
yeah.
when it would be most effective to like catch,
Right. Yeah, and that's what we look for on those, is the time so that we can direct,
Yeah.
patrol more towards those times rather than just sitting there, willy-nilly. So,
And then how often does that battery need to be changed in order to keep it from going wonky?
usually about 2 weeks. About 2
2
weeks usually.
So this
Depending
one-
on the weather, as it gets colder, it
Yeah.
doesn't last quite as long, but
Right.
on average about 2
Was
weeks.
that 2 weeks of data, chief?
What's that?
Was that 2 weeks of data?
This was only a week. He pulled off what he could to get me some for tonight.
Oh, was there more data?
Yeah, there should be 2 weeks of data.
That's what I was asking. There's actually 2 weeks of data before the battery
Except
fails.
that the battery's gone wonky, so it maybe isn't really, but
I'm sorry, I didn't hear sure.
I think the battery has gone bad because it's not registering now, right?
Unless that car was going 99 miles an hour, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we grabbed it a couple days ago. It doesn't register the data. Once the battery gets to that point, that's not down
Right.
in the system.
So if you do get Mark, can you email it to us?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
we should put it on our list of things to consider whether or not it makes sense to get another one of those, or is it,
Or some
or
permanent
those
ones.
stationary ones that are solar or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
how much do those stinking things cost, and how could we figure out how we could have some to use?
4,000, right?
At least, and then some.
Yeah.
That's for the cart that we have right now, right?
Solar powered speed
Oh,
indicators,
oh.
about $4,000.
The ones that are like it.
The one South Woodbury has.
Yeah, because this wouldn't work really.
But those are
that well.
stationary, right?
Yeah,
'cause you have to take the
decide they're
whole-
gonna leave them in that spot.
They don't have to be the stationary type, right?
Oh,
This whole
That's what I'm
unit
asking.
has to be taken down in order to charge it, so you're
right.
back and forth all the time if you were gonna actually leave it somewhere.
The thing what Sherry's referencing, chief, is what's out in South Woodbury Village, where you've got your speed limit, you've got
Yeah.
here's your speed,
Yeah.
if you're speeding, it flashes at you. So try and attempt to slow you down.
Yeah.
'Cause I think that's what people are looking for, is like, because that is a deterrent. That itself is a deterrent.
Right.
Since we know that
Yeah.
the, cruiser's not gonna sit there and watch people. If that's worth it,
Well, even,
whether or not we couldn't do that in a couple other places.
Right, even a police cruiser is a deterrent.
Yeah.
But you can't put the one police cop,
Right.
the one police car, the
Yeah.
one police officer that's on all during that shift on one particular street.
Yeah.
It's just not feasible. So.
Yeah, that I understand. I'm just trying to figure out how
Right.
you get some other that has the same effect.
All right. Doug, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'll ask you several things. Well, when you consider as a deterrent, just parking a police car without somebody in it. If somebody comes down at over 30 miles an hour, they suddenly see a police car, they're gonna slow down, but there's nobody in it.
Usually we don't have a lot of police
Don't have
cars to
spare.
spare.
Yeah.
We go down to Gates, they still got the old blue one.
Maybe we should keep the next one that goes down and just like put some fake tires on
Put a
it.
dummy in it.
Should we
Yeah.
go down to Gates and see if they have anything there?
They do, they do, they got the old blue one down there. The old Crown Vic.
You good?
The other question I had that was just coming from some residents is, apparently HPD at one point in history walked about the town. You would see officers walking the streets, you would see foot patrols. When did that stop and why did that stop?
As far as walking around town?
Yeah, well, that's what the people have commented that that's a connection that they had that they don't have anymore when they don't see a police officer walking the streets. They don't get to see the person outside of their car, basically.
Well, we still do that. It depends on who you're talking to as to whether they see us or not. We've had people that say they don't see us drive ever West Church Street, and I'm on West Church Street probably 15 times a day myself. So, you're gonna have people that say they don't see us. I don't think that person sits on that street 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to see if we, walk by, et cetera. And we also have, I think people have forgotten that we also have a very strong opiate issue still in these small communities that we are pressed with dealing with. And we're continuing to combat that problem, which is creating much smaller crimes below that, and taking our focus away from, some aspects of the community policing. So many of us would be much rather, shaking hands and kissing babies, but right now we're having to do search warrants into houses, doing things that, are helping hopefully to combat the opiate problem, so.
Still got some bikes down there?
We do still have bikes, yeah, yeah. The problem with bikes, and I was actually the one that originally started myself and my brother actually were the ones that started the bike program. And the bike program we ran during special events like Halloween, Memorial Day parade, things like that. Again, you have one, sometimes two officers per shift. So if you have the officer that's on shift down street on the bicycle and he gets a call in North Greensboro, he's got to be able to get rid of the bike, get to the cruiser, and get to Greensboro for the call. So in a rural community like us, unless we were to put an officer on specifically for those types of duties, we've had to lead them to special events where we do have other officers on, et cetera. But it was effective when we had it in the ways that we utilized it. But we still do have them, and actually at least one of the officers has asked about starting that back up. But with a rail trail, it might be more feasible, or we may have to do that, but we're probably going to have to bring in officers specifically for that purpose, for that shift, or however, a few hours a day, whatever we just manage. But yeah.
So, all right, let's go ahead. I'm noticing the time. We're
Way behind.
way behind. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I thought this League of Cities and Town document was fascinating, and particularly the part about psychological profile, emotional fitness for the job. And I find it, as one who has burned out of the public school system, I find it very reasonable that a lot of people go into policing wanting to be a guardian, but you're working in a hostile environment just by the nature of the job, and that it doesn't take, in time they develop a warrior mentality, a self-defensive, nobody appreciates us mentality. Is there repeated psychological testing? What is the rate of dropout, of burnout that you know of? It seems like a really high burnout sort of job.
It is a high burnout job. I don't know that any studies have ever been done. If they are, I don't have anything to quote, but it's a good point that you make, and probably very true.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not just mentally, but physically. Many officers at the end of their career developed injuries throughout their career that causes them difficulties after their career, back issues, knee issues, I can tell you shoulder issues. So both mentally and physically problems are encountered.
Is it respectable within the profession to say, I can't do this anymore? Is acknowledging burnout or acknowledging that this is too much something that is respected, or is it like I've heard about the military that you're not allowed to show that weakness?
No, it's become, there's been change in that aspect as well, where you try to look at from supervisors, hopefully know who's working under them, and you look for signs, et cetera. And we have, most of your municipal towns in Vermont especially have avenues to be able to get help in those areas. And so we encourage that more now than with debriefings after critical incidents, et cetera. And just life in general can get in the way as well, and affect everything that's going on. So yeah.
Thank you.
Taylor had something she wanted to say. Go ahead, Taylor.
I also acknowledge that we are behind schedule, so I'll keep it quick. Have patience with me, Wiz. Erin, I just had a quick question for you and some feedback that I've gotten from the community. The question is how do you feel that well, let me start by just saying some of the feedback few anonymous reports of some pretty disturbing posts being made by officers on social media. And granted, this is in their own time. It's on their personal social media posts. But they are not friendly, to say the least. And I'm happy to show those to you at a different time. I guess my question is, where do we stand on educating our town workers to make sure that everybody feels included and safe? Where are we on kind of making sure that our service lives are matching our personal lives? And because I feel like even in my role, like even if I'm off work, I'm still responsible for upholding and reflected in my job as a select board member and as an educator. We can add this to a different agenda item. We don't have to talk about it right now, but I do think it's relevant, and I don't think we can not talk about it. If not tonight, then a different night, because I would love to be able to understand what's okay or not okay, and I know it's a kind of a fuzzy line, but I felt like I had to bring it up tonight because it is relevant, and it's something that we really need to talk about at some point.
Sure, I think there is a fine line, Kaylee. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer at this point, as to, whether it's training. I don't really know what the answer is yet, but as far as social media, it's something that's been addressed throughout the country. I believe there are some rulings on social media and posts, etc., but I don't have any of those at hand. But it's been a very touchy subject across the nation when it comes to freedom of speech, etc., and when it becomes offensive to one person but may not be to another, etc. So, and that's just being somewhat generalized because I don't have all the information that you're talking about. So, but yeah, it is a fine line. I think I would agree on that.
Kaylee, if you have information that you'd be willing to share with the rest of the select board, I would appreciate that as well. Kaylee?
Yeah, maybe it makes sense, Aaron. I would also, I mentioned this I had gotten an anonymous email about this a couple months ago, and I talked to you directly about it and to Sean, and I just feel like this is kind of like what I was saying earlier with the speeding. It's kind of like the third or fourth time, and so I feel like it should be brought to a select board meeting. So maybe we can add it when you've had a chance to take a look at what I'm talking about. Maybe we can add it to a different agenda and just kind of talk about, I know it's tricky. It's a tricky time. Social media is a very complicated beast. But I just want to make sure that our police officers are safe and that obviously that our community is safe as well. And I just feel like we should talk about it. So I'll share it for the next or future select board meeting.
Thanks, Kaylee. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate all that information. All right. So we're moving on to item 1, which is Aldrich and Elliott have looked at our wastewater treatment plant, and they've prepared a preliminary engineering report about some plant upgrades that we should consider. And I think they're joining somehow, right?
Yes, who do we have on here now?
Should be waiting, Mike.
Yes, this is Wayne Elliott, and should be Mike Maynard on also.
Let me just see if he's in the waiting room. He was on, but he must have.
Having a little hard time. Yeah, Brittany, having a little hard time hearing some of the discussions in the room.
Okay, so do you have a computer? Because if you go to hctv.us, you could actually watch the live feed. That may be helpful.
Okay.
So that way you can watch and hear from there and then respond.
Okay.
So yes, hctv.us, and you should be able to view the meeting live and sort of follow along that way.
Okay, great, thank you.
It looks like Mike got off, but I'll look for him in the waiting room. But we have Wayne from Audreys and Elliott, so.
While we're thinking, in the future, maybe, I don't know, I mean, if we're gonna continue to live in a semi-virtual world, it would be helpful to come up with some better technological solutions to having people join remotely.
We talked to Casey today about maybe we get a smart TV as one option and some lights. The other thing we're gonna have to evaluate with the weather changing is, I think we're gonna have to move back into that room, so, we can't heat this space when it starts to get cold. So this is something that logistically we are gonna have to address.
Or we just go back to Zoom.
Maybe that's what happens. I think
Because
we can
then
get the full
everybody's on the
select
same
board-
platform.
I think we could get the select board and department heads in that space, but it wouldn't allow for the public. So it's just something we'll have to figure out in this next 6-week period.
Yeah.
With
So-
the solid waste district is in the same place, and we actually found, because we were just talking about, before all this happened, we were just talking about how some people, you know, they're having low attendance during bad weather and blah, 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 and all these reasons why, and they have better attendance now with the Zoom thing than ever before, so.
Okay.
Just saying.
Wayne, are you with us?
Yeah, Ian here. Okay, so you just told Brittany I'm having a little hard time hearing the discussions in the room. I don't know if you guys can hear me okay.
We can.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Do you want us? I know Mike Mayer was on here too from my office. I'm not sure if he's still on or not, but you guys ready to jump into this or?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, just to kind of, so we have been working on the preliminary engineering study. We're approaching 90% complete. I'll just kind of walk through the memo that Sean gave to you guys. The existing conditions, part of why this was initiated here was kind of more the age-related stuff. You have the headworks influent pumping, the anaerobic reactor, the 2 lagoons, the chemical phosphorus, and the disinfection. Several of those items have been addressed or aren't of an age that are a concern at the moment. The town's been really good about putting money aside in the capital and doing needed improvements with your own resources over the past years. The big things that kind of brought this to light here are the lagoon liner. It's a PVC liner that's kind of old dated technology, and there's been several kind of failures of that here in the last few years that are required repairs. That's really past its useful life. Also the aeration system and a few other things here. So basically we're looking at the aeration blowers, the aeration system air piping, the aeration system diffusers, the anaerobic selector, the cover and the baffle that's out there, and then the lagoon liners and the baffles that are within the lagoons. We did look at some other major equipment in the plant. Again, it's an age-related issue. There's a motor control center in the control building, some of the heating, ventilation, and then one part of the grit removal. We did include those in the study and identified those, but at this point we don't have those in the proposed project. Just kind of being sensitive to priorities and costs and budgets here. So under the proposed project, we have a new cover for the anaerobic selector. That was paid for out of a state grant for the phosphorus removal, and that's been a great addition to the plant. That's really helped the town handle the higher influent organic wastewater loadings in the facility. And we've looked at a couple options there, but it really makes sense to make that because it maintain that and upgrade and improve that moving forward, because that's been very effective and it's worked well. We are looking to replace the baffle, the curtain in lagoon number 1, and we're also looking to replace the floating laterals and diffusers. Again, the air piping and all that equipment is 30 plus years. Same thing with blowers 1 and 2. We do plan to put variable frequency drives. You'll have new blowers, so that will all be more energy efficient than what you have now. We've also got new air piping, diffusers, butterfly valves. And as part of this, one of the things we have to do is, because we're replacing the synthetic liner, and basically that liner's there just to really kind of maintain the liquid within the lagoon. You obviously don't want that leaching out into the adjacent groundwater. That is original, but to replace that liner in the bottom of the side slopes, we do need to finish off the sludge clean out, so that is also included here. Fortunately, the town did a partial clean out here at Lagoon number 2 this year, so that's going to help considerably, but we haven't done Lagoon 1, so we do have that budget included in the in here. Again, we need to do that to take that sludge down and remove it, get it cleaned out, so we can, you know, put new material in there and put a new HDP liner in the bottom and the side slopes of the lagoons. Any questions there at all, or so far? I know, Eric, you had some questions. I can go through those with you now if you'd like, or we can wait till the end here.
Either, whatever works for you.
You might have to relay that.
Okay. So Eric had sent us some questions, and why don't I address these now? This first one was the grit removal system. You know, we do mention that's past its useful life, and you are correct, Eric. The town did replace kind of what I would say the above water components of that here a few years ago. You replaced the grit pump, the classifier, which sits up top, that dewaters the grit and the control, so that's all been done, and that's good shape. What we're referring to here is the equipment that's down in the channel, kind of below water, that is original. It does need to replace. Now, the decision here, why that's not in the base project or the proposed project, is that, you know, it is critical, but if there was an issue with that, that's probably not going to cause or lead to any kind of permit effluent limitation. We could include that. We have identified that. We still could include that in the project, you know, as kind of an ad alternate, do the design, and if, you know, the budgets came in favorable moving forward, that is still an option. You know, we could still include that if, you know, we choose that that's a priority. And you had another question about improvements, which is kind of interesting between the maintenance improvements. You know, most of this stuff is really addressing age-related things that are really past their useful life. I would say there are probably 3 or 4 things that are going to be improvements over what you have now. The cover over the selector is definitely an improvement over what was put in, you know, 20 some odd years ago. The aeration system is much better, more efficient. The liner is a big change. You know, you have a PVC liner. One of the issues with PVC is susceptible to sunlight, so you do have to cover it. Now, typically it's an HDPE liner, just a different type of synthetic material, so that's a definite improvement. And then the other part is the blowers. You know, those will be more energy efficient. It will have variable frequency drives, which allows the operators some more flexibility there to better control the air rates out there and, you know, control the electrical costs. The last question, the baffle, the curtains, and the cover are included in the aeration system improvements. So does that answer your questions, Eric? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I guess I was also just wondering, like, so, I mean, it sounds like these are all, I think what I hear you saying is most of these things are replacing items at their end of their useful life. When we get new equipment, it's going to be better for the most part in a lot of ways. But what I'm not, but it sounds like overall, none of this stuff has a major impact on the capacity of the plant.
Well, except what we've decided to do is the selector itself has had some great benefits, so we're definitely taking credit for that. You know, that's worked very well. And so we want to kind of maintain that and replace that and keep that working. So I'd say that could be kind of considered an improvement too. You know, the town, you know, we could just take that away, but we do find that has good benefit to handling the higher strength wastewater. So I think it's important for that to maintain that. And we're taking credit for that in some of the original design criteria. So you have some of that additional influent organic capacity moving forward, Eric.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, because as you remember back to history, that the state paid for that, but that was really considered really very experimental. There were some concerns about spending too much money on it, even though it was a state grant. And, you know, the towns have the benefit with, you know, the state Lowlanders assistance to really better monitor that, you know, determination. That's worked very well, and that's been a real good benefit to the treatment facility and the performance.
Yeah, yep.
So it's important to maintain that, Eric, and kind of reinvest that and
Right.
get that upgraded so you can get another 20 plus years out of it.
Plus,
So the other part, the other part of this is kind of the motivation for moving these forward is, you know, as much as times are tough, the state's really come out with the intended use plan as of July 1st and really are putting some more favorable financing out there. So through the state right now, the interest rate is 2%. That's not a change. They do allow you to go to 30 years on the term of the loan, you know, as long as we can show out that, you know, the improvements really have that useful life expectancy. The two big things are for any of the engineering that you have out there, that you can qualify for up to 50%, or actually 50% of that up to 100,000 each year. And the big piece of that is they're providing 40% subsidy up to $2 million. So that's new as of July 1st. So the funding looks much more favorable for this year than it has in the past. Estimated total project cost is about $1.6 million. You know, that includes the construction, includes the construction contingency, engineering permit fees and everything. And then on the very last page, what we've done is Sean's suggestion for right now. This is really more to just give the board an update, but just kind of give you a breakdown how the funding could look at that $1.6 million. You know, we're estimating almost $40,000 if the town would be eligible for engineering subsidy. You know, that's money that you don't have to pay back. On the construction subsidy, you're looking at about $620,000. Again, that's money the town wouldn't have to pay back. And the loan amount would be, you know, about $942,000, be a 2% admin fee for a term of 30 years. The town could choose to use capital funds for some of this if you wanted to, you know, so that's something that the board can have some further discussion on. You know, you do have to vote the full $1.6 million the way the subsidies are set up. That does have to be included in the bond authorization, even though you don't have to repay that at the end of the loan. Next steps. So, you know, one thing we've been talking about, you know, and this is really a board discussion, kind of moving forward here. You know, if you want to move this into construction for next year and get this to qualify for some of the funding available as of July 1st is, you know, holding a bond vote either between November of this year or March of 2000 next year. We feel pretty comfortable talking to the state that that subsidy is still going to be available, even if you wait till March. But, you know, that would roughly be the time frame that we would need to get a positive bond vote if you wanted to, you know, move to construction for next year. The other thing that would have to happen as part of that, for the town to qualify for the engineering subsidies, you have to go through a qualifications-based selection process. So that's something that can definitely be done this fall. And if that's the case, then we would recommend getting into the design, really putting the contract documents and getting through the permitting over the winter. So worst case, if you had a bond vote, you know, in March of next year, you know, we could get this out to bid in February time frame. You know, be it ready to open bids at the construction pricing and take construction season for next year. So, okay. So that's a lot of information. I guess if anybody have any questions.
So if we use capital, is that also forgiven, or is it just the loan that's forgiven?
Wayne, the question was, if we use capital, is that forgiven, or is it just the loan that's forgiven?
Or subsidized?
It's just the loan itself that would be forgiven. So if you chose to put any capital, you know, into the 1.6, that would really.
you're breaking up a little, Wayne. Can't hear you.
Advantage of right now with the fund question is that, you know, if you're using the subsidy from the state right now, you're getting, you know, 40 cents on the dollar, which is pretty advantageous. So that's why, you know, the town's kind of in a good place to kind of decide whether you wanted to, you know, apply or use some of that capital or just let it sit there and,
I guess at first blush, looking through, it seems to me that you've given us a list of other maintenance things that we could use that money for as well. So, I mean, our accumulated capital.
Right.
And we get subsidy on anything that we do with a loan, so.
Just for the good of conversation, we were into this same discussion with the Bridgman rehab on the water, on the roof. It's exactly the same discussion.
Yeah.
So what was decided for that project is hang on to the reserve.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna get the 40%.
Right.
If we spend the reserve, you don't get the 40%. You're spending 100% for that dollar.
So it's a 2% interest on the loan, but it's 40% forgiveness, so it's actually negative. You're making money. Just want to make sure I have it right.
So, for me, so it's great to have this information. I really appreciate it. I need to put this, for me to think through it in terms of the benefit to the town, I need to understand what this does to the water rates, or wastewater rates, because that's how it gets repaid.
We could do that work, and then we wouldn't have to go out for a bond until town meeting day, right?
Totally.
So we have some time.
And we have, and honestly, a lot of things in this, we've known for years that the liners are old.
Yeah.
And we've known the anaerobic cover was getting old, and, right, these are known issues.
So,
It's just that the cost to replace all this stuff is a bit staggering. But
So
if
we,
you
right,
view,
I'm sorry.
but $942,000 financed over 30 years, and what does that do? How does that look when you disperse it across all the sewer rates? Maybe it doesn't look too bad. And it keeps the system running for another 30 years, which is very important.
excellent, yeah.
Well, maybe as part of our water and sewer thing, or maybe I don't know if we could come out with a projection for what it would cost over 30 years, what you're saying.
Yeah.
Get back on that next time.
Yeah, we'd have to have an idea about what the loan payment would be, the annual loan payment.
I'd also like a tour of the facility, so I know what these parts are. Is that something you're able to do, Sean, or should we see you next time they're down there if we can get something done?
I may have to defer to Tom or Ken.
Kenny, I've talked to Kenny about he's willing to do lagoon boat tour, pontoon boat tours, the whole thing.
Yeah, you can go out on it, yeah.
Wayne, Wayne, this is Sean. What would you need, and how much time would it be if we just try to do some calculations, assuming the financing comes through and these things? I mean, obviously we have to assume some things before we actually sign our final paperwork, if the project were to proceed, of course. But I think you and Mike talked about this earlier this week. If we can maybe just see what our thoughts are, what the projections are on, okay, what does this mean now for a given user, say assuming a 30-year note with these numbers.
Yep, absolutely, yep. The other thing to just think a little bit about too is, with the capital, I'm not sure, if you're limited on how you can use some of those funds, but, I guess my 2 cents is that because of the subsidy, you're really better leveraging the state funding, and if you wanted to do something going forward, to look at the sewer rates, you'd probably be better off, playing with the capital, and maybe you could use some nominal amount of that to the debt retirement, at least in the early years, and, keep in mind, with the way the schedule is, probably best case scenario would be construction next year. The first loan payment wouldn't be due until a year from next fall, so we would be looking to 2022. So got a little time before the increase in sewer rates needs to hit here.
All right, so,
COVID thing. And so I don't know if, it looks like the engineering is like 38,000. Like, I guess I'm curious, how much would we be out before we get to actually voting for the bond at town meeting? If, if COVID hits and more or something, and there's something.
yeah, so, Wayne, can you hear that question?
No, I can't. Sorry, Eric. I'm having a hard time hearing.
Yeah, so the question is from Lucian, and it was, if we went ahead with, let's say we went ahead and started working on the next steps, the design and preliminary engineering, and we got to March and the bond vote, failed, then, then what do we do? Are we out?
Yeah, so there's a couple things with that. You know, I would say you probably need to do this work at some point, irregardless, just because of the age. I think the lagoon liner and other things are really a primary concern. So the design will still be valid, Eric. It's not something that's really going to change significantly. You know, you could kind of hold, and if it was delayed a year or two, that's not going to, you know, you're still going to be able to reuse that and have that. So worst case scenario, that if the bond vote didn't pass, you went to a second one, didn't pass, you already put some of this money into the engineering, the good or bad, you know, so that you'd only be on the hook for 50% of it because of the subsidy. And then worst case scenario, you would have to pay that off over 5 years at 0%. So, you know, you're looking at roughly, you know, $40,000 spread over that 5 years, Eric.
Okay, so that, yeah, that's perfect. Thank you, that's what we need to know. All right, so can we come back to this next time, maybe? When, or,
Yeah, you guys have to absorb the information.
yeah.
Yeah. So we don't have
Yeah,
to-
Wayne, that's okay. I think we had talked about, you know, people would be getting the information, and then maybe at the next meeting, we can pick it up. And what I understood was, you know, that timing would be okay, you know, depending on what the select board decides to do on this.
Yeah, so Sean, kind of 2 cents, you know, I've been working with a lot of these bond votes in November, and, you know, that's obviously probably not doable anyway, so, you know, I guess my point is here, you may have a little bit of time, you know, with the mail-in ballots and all that stuff, that window's been missed, and obviously, you know, you would have to have your bond votes, documents and all that really ready pretty quickly to do this 30-day warning for the November vote, you know, and then there's concerns about people mailing in ballots and not many people going to the polls, so, you know, I would say, you know, doing it on that date probably isn't doable, you know, you kind of missed the window on that anyway, so I would say that you probably have a little bit more time here. If you're going to do that, it would be, you know, later in the year, and obviously if you wanted to wait till March, you know, you would have to really kind of start this process until, you know, you could do an update late December, you know, make that decision in January. It's just got to get out with the town report stuff and the warnings probably the 3rd week in January, so you may have a little bit more time here than you think.
Okay, that's great. All right, so that's great. So we have information, we can absorb it. The people working on water rates could think about how that might potentially impact a water and sewer rate down the road. And we can come back to this when we can. Thank you, Wayne.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, tonight was kind of the purpose to give you guys an update and get you thinking about things. I said you got a little bit of time here to make some decisions.
Great. Thanks so much.
Sorry we were running behind. It was a little bit busy on the front end.
That's fine. That's fine. Good night, guys. Thank you.
Good
All
night.
right, good night. Next up is item 2, which is the water sewer truck. We have a plan to, what's the plan to replace that thing?
Get our numbers in the packet.
Yeah, they are. I'm looking.
So we did, we checked some pricing. Casey did a lot of work on this, and Tom was involved too. So Casey, thanks for your work on this. What we did is we got pricing for 3 units, and the one we would recommend going with is, it's a Dodge 2021 Ram 1500 Tradesman regular cab, 8-foot bed, 4x4, and do I have that right? That one's in red in color, which is what we're running right now. The price that we have is $22,827. So just on that, it's an order. So it's a you know, right off the line. They're saying 60 to 120 days for the delivery.
Whoa.
We don't know. I mean, you're seeing supply chain issues.
Yeah.
This is the fact of the matter.
Okay.
This being said, the other option that we had was it's a bit more. It's It's a 2020 Ram 1500 Tradesman. That was $24,314, so it's a little bit more. Correct me if I'm wrong, that one's available now.
It's available now, it's white.
It's white in color, but it's available now. So you got a little bit more money there. You got it. So the next one is an F-150. I'll just give you the three we came back with. That's a looks like an access cab, four-wheel drive. Regular cab. It's an XL model, 8-foot box. So these are all pretty comparable, if you will. Fleet price on that is $25,632.
Tom?
How long is the first one?
The length, they're all similar.
No, the time frame to get.
On the delivery, it's showing 60 to 120 days.
It will
So
definitely be closer to 120.
so just for what it's worth, is that an S10, whatever that current one is, we're gonna cycle that out probably this week, next week. It's gonna be cycled out. We're not in a catastrophic situation. We do have another vehicle with our mowing season slowing down. We'd have another vehicle accessible, so it's not like we don't have a vehicle for this particular work at that department. This being said, who the heck knows what's gonna happen on supply chain stuff, right? So that is a variable. You wanna get one you can get now, or do you wanna, go a little bit down the line? So, I don't know. We talked about it a little bit this afternoon, and I said, well, let's just give them the bottom two, and I am not so concerned about the order up process, but maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
Do we have anything in a capital fund to pay for this?
We have 16,000 towards it, and then we have obviously other funds, but I'm saying earmarked for that, we have 16,000.
So we're spending over our capital amount that we have for it? But it's
On
not-
that line.
Yeah.
On that line.
We'll
but we
use another
have
equipment
other
area.
equipment funds, right, it's just still,
It'll come out of some other truck where we underspend.
right.
Yep.
Exactly, like when we trade the big trucks.
We always go out, we always put in the replacement fund the actual value of the dump truck. But like the new one we got coming, I think we budgeted 200, I think we're spending 134, something like that, 135.
Back up though, this doesn't apply in that situation, we can't count that money because this is being split between water and sewer, not the general, so.
Oh,
It's not the
water
same-
and sewer.
It's not same capital, but.
That's right.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, what you got is, we've got a 2021, and I'm not gonna read it back, I'll just give you the year. 2021, that's at 22,827, so bear in mind, that's a new model year. And the expected delivery is showing 60 to 120. And you'd be practical to assume it's 120. It could be even a bit longer. That's in a red color. The next one is a 2020 Dodge Ram.
Also brand new.
Yep.
Yeah.
That one is the one that's white in color and available, $24,314.
So the price difference is $500?
No,
1,500.
$2,000.
22,827 versus 24,314.
Oh, right.
It's like
So $1,500.
$1,500.
Okay. So can we wait?
No, we gotta order because.
No, can we order
Oh, sorry.
the one, can we wait for delivery?
We waited last time and then all of a sudden we lost out on a couple is why I reacted that
No,
way.
I'm not gonna wait to make a decision. I'm asking if we can wait to
I
take
honestly
delivery,
am
or
gonna
we spend-
defer to Tom and Casey on this one because I'm like, I don't know. I
It's
mean,
gonna be 4 to 6 months.
Right.
And
I mean,
it
that's
could
how
be-
long
it
the other
could
truck
be-
was, that we just got the F-150, and they
Yeah.
didn't come in till
January. we got it in
January or something like that, so.
could be
But-
another,
but,
could be a
you know,
year.
I told Sean, I said mowing season's just about done, and
Yeah.
that's Ed's truck for the,
Yeah.
for the year. So we got another truck for Kenny to run around with, to do his water stuff, and, situations like that.
Okay.
And then we have the 1-ton still, if we need to split up for storms and stuff, we got vehicles we can deal with.
So
Casey-
things are still gonna get done whether.
Things are
we
still
it
gonna
or
get
not.
done whether we're down a truck or not.
Yeah, just at that point, why, on the order up, we're showing this 120-day window, but we've had this experience recently with trying to get vehicles, and all of a sudden it turns into 6 or 8 months. We've had it with our cruiser, and that was even before COVID.
Although I was told that this particular truck is already being produced, So that's good. It's not like waiting on, it's already in production, so that's one positive thing. Doesn't mean it will be any sooner, but.
All right, somebody want to make a motion to recommend one of these vehicles?
I am gonna make the motion that we do the $24,314 one that is available now. Let's get it done, have it working, and who cares if it's white?
I second.
Okay.
And it's, you know,
Yeah.
there are just too
Problem with
many
white?
variables, too
That-
many variables.
Is there a problem with white?
No, we've
No,
always,
everything is red we have.
we've always had red, well, not always, but our last pickup truck there with the utility body was white.
That's right.
You know, that's the truck that we could find, that we could afford at the time.
Yeah.
So no,
Yeah.
we usually just run red on everything, but no.
I think
It'll be
it's
a little
better
bit
to
unique
just have
because
it.
it's not
Yeah.
highway, it's the water sewer truck, so I guess it'll differentiate a little.
That'll work.
Any more discussion?
It's not that big of a difference.
No, let's give it.
Any more, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Maybe we can trade in the S10 and get $500 for it.
Any opposed?
Yeah.
More like $5, but yeah.
I didn't hear any opposition, so motion, and is Haley still with us?
You're gonna mark that I said aye to it.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so all in favor, yeah, so everybody's good, so motion passes and we get the truck that actually exists. Next up, thank you everyone. Next up is the review of the town sign policy. So this went around in email, a couple versions. I know Sherry had some edits and I had some very minor edits. And I can't find it, but
Could we, it's towards the end.
Yep.
So if we were to revert at this moment, if we were just to revert back to what we've always, what's been in place in
Yeah.
the past,
yeah,
then there would just be no posting of signs of any kind on town property.
correct. They're not allowed unless you have permission from the select board, and if they're there, they can be taken down at the convenience of the town.
Well, in light of time, and because I started this thing,
Yeah,
I'd like to propose that we just revert back to our original policy. I want to take another hard look at this and see whether we really shouldn't, whether it's a mistake to combine public art with all other signs. I think that there's a better way to do this. And I just, yeah.
Let's just step back from it basically and just
Yeah.
revert.
And just do it,
Let your own ride.
Just
sounds
do it
great.
once, do it right. I
Yep.
know we've struggled with this thing, and I've certainly tried to make it all one, and I think it maybe just it shouldn't be all one thing.
yeah,
So I agree with Jerry, but I do think it's really important to maintain our public art policy separate from our sign policy, because our sign policy does not cover what is in the public art policy.
They are not the same thing, yeah. So, so that would mean that we could say, so that all the signs need to come down.
yeah,
All of them need to come down.
Yeah.
And I suppose we could, because it's been a gray area for a little while here, we could say that by tomorrow at 5 o'clock, they need to come down.
Or they're just coming down.
Or they'll be removed.
yeah.
And then we could
And we
store
just-
them for, I don't know, 10 days here if somebody wants to come and pick up their sign or whatever. But let's just, can we just do that?
I would love to do that.
Yeah, I think that's it.
And that gives Sean cover to take down anything that comes up.
It's just, they're just
He
not
doesn't
allowed.
have to make a decision.
It's not a judgment call. They're
It's
just
not
not
a
allowed.
judgment call, it's just, there are no signs on
Public
Town property.
town property.
Right.
Just like it used to be, and we'll just,
Yeah,
we'll do this once and do it right, I'm sorry for the diversion, but it's just,
It's been valuable.
it's an unusual time, and people want to do what they want to do, but the activism stuff, you know, they can have those signs, they just need to be holding them,
Correct.
you know, and
Totally.
take them home with you, and then
Yep.
bring them back when you're doing your thing.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to go.
And in light of our time tonight, I'm ready.
There we are. We're moving on.
Keep moving. Yeah.
Nice.
Can we
So-
just get back on schedule?
Maybe, I don't know.
You got that?
I guess I left the room at the wrong time. I should have done
You
that the
stole it.
last time.
You know.
We covered you, Sean. They're not allowed. If you
They're just
see
not
one,
allowed.
take
You
it
don't-
down.
Don't think, take them down.
You don't have to make
It's
a
just better
judgment
to
call.
do it right.
Just, I would say, I think that's a reasonable tactic, because I was still trying to figure out how do you evaluate, you're into this whole discussion of somebody finds it offensive and somebody doesn't, and it was just a tricky situation to be in.
Well, and I think even beyond that, I think
What Audrey had to
Audrey
say.
brought up about a sign that looks innocuous, but she said has, you know, all these QAnon-related
codes
things
and
that who knew? I mean, I don't know, and different people have different ideas about what's appropriate. I understand that too, and I think it's simpler just to say that, you know what? They're just not on the town property.
Take your sign home.
I would
with you.
say that it'd be good if we could take a soft approach to it though, if we could, you know, like make an attempt to, you know, if we can figure out who the people are. I mean, you don't need to put a whole lot of time into it, but I feel like,
Well, yeah,
I don't
I
know.
mean, I don't know, do you want me to post it, or can you guys
Yeah,
post on Front Porch Forum, you know, so that it goes out tomorrow morning? And says, please you can collect your sign, or anytime tomorrow, I suppose. Signs will be removed by 5 o'clock tomorrow. If you haven't removed it yourself, you can pick it up at the memorial building and just keep them in the closet downstairs for a couple of weeks.
There's a
people want.
timing issue of the forum doesn't come out
Yeah.
until about 5:30.
Yeah.
And we're out of here at 3:30, to be blunt. So
Monday?
Give it a little, I don't know, I'm not saying it has to be
Monday.
earlier, that doesn't imply that I'm gonna go
Give
and
it till
start taking
Monday.
stuff.
Monday's,
So leave it till Monday, maybe?
Monday's holiday.
Monday's a holiday, yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
I'm
so.
voting for Tuesday.
Tuesday morning,
Tuesday morning.
coming down.
Or Tuesday, whenever,
Make the post tomorrow, and then they come down on Tuesday morning.
or Tuesday at the convenience of the town.
So then the people, whoever's made their sign or whatever, and they want it, they can pick it up over the weekend. And
Otherwise,
take it home, otherwise it's gonna be
Perfect.
removed, and,
is that okay with you guys? Sean?
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
reasonable.
All right,
It gives
good.
some folks some time to react, and it doesn't, you know, I think that's, as Lucian says.
Yeah,
Kaylee, go ahead.
go ahead, Kaylee.
Just really quickly, I think if we're doing this, which I think is the right thing for right now, then I think that we should have actually a harder approach to taking down all signs on town property, unless there's actual permission. Just so that way it seems like we're doing what the policy says as quickly as we can. And I also wonder if for the Peace Park in particular, I don't think this would be very hard to do. It doesn't have to happen next week, but it might be worth just having a laminated sign on that fence that says, "You're welcome to put something here. It's going to get taken down, and you can pick it up at the town offices." Or if you did put something here, or if you did put something here, then it's going to go to the town offices, because we have no idea who put those signs up. And I think there's something nicer about that than just saying, like, we're taking whatever you're putting on this and we're throwing it away immediately. And you can figure out, Sean, what that looks like and if it's even feasible or realistic. But maybe there's something that says, if you want to stand on this curb and hold your sign, that's great. But it's not going to go here, and if it does, then this is where it's going for 10 days.
I think a sign that just says no postings here, yeah.
I don't even want a sign.
No, nothing.
Or
yeah.
did you mean like just in us going to take them down by next week, like just giving people a heads up, like that these signs are about to come down? Is that what you were thinking?
No, I think she's
Yeah.
talking about
Yes.
Yeah,
I think people will learn over time,
yeah.
but.
Sure, let's put up a sign. Let's put up signs that say no signs. Perfect.
Yes, exactly, right. That's like writing this page intentionally left blank.
All right.
All right, let's move on. Next is item number 4, pedestrian traffic safety follow-up with review crosswalks and other options. Holy cow. Oh my words, after 8 o'clock, I'm gonna turn into a pumpkin. All right, what's happening?
You got some numbers?
Nope, I don't yet.
So I got this example. I can just show everybody this example.
Yep.
And just,
No, he was supposed to email me the numbers today, Scott from WorkSafe, but he hasn't got back to me yet. If I do get it tomorrow, then I will definitely forward it to everybody.
So this is what they look
one
like.
example.
Is
So
it
if everybody wants
the
to
flashing
quick
one?
look, Haley, you're not gonna be able to see this, of course, but it's basically what I did is I grabbed an image of the one. Tom was checking pricing, and what I did is this is the example out of the city of Montpelier. And what they've done with their particular version is the instance there, it's mounted to a block. It doesn't have to be a permanent installation. You know, you got the variables there, and I know that's what Tom was trying to get the pricing on. So the way that one works is somebody walks up, that is a solar powered one, so you know, I don't know how that impacts your costing, but you walk up and you push the button, and then what it does is it triggers the LED flashers for both lanes of traffic. That's it in a nutshell.
It was what inspired my whole desire to
Yeah, I
have
know.
it.
Yeah.
And
Was the one in
so,
Montpelier.
Well, when I was talking to Scott today, he kind of thinks that we can't mount those lights on the post that we have down there. We're gonna have to go with a little bit bigger post. Because I told him, because he asked me how much sun gets there.
Yeah.
And I told him about noon time, when the
Yeah.
sun really starts hitting down through there. So he actually thought we might have to go with, instead of like having one battery, 2 batteries, it's gonna be a little bit more heavier. So that's what he was working on today, so.
okay.
So maybe, could be part of the base.
It's gonna look the same,
somehow.
Sherry, but it's just gonna be a bigger square post. It
Right.
just, you know, the anchors that we have down there, I think are like 2 foot. He said we might have to go 4 foot long on them. And the the posts themselves might have to be a little bit more square, or a little bit more bigger.
Where are the batteries?
The batteries are actually way up top, right next to the solar panel.
Helps prevent vandalism.
Yep.
Oh, so it's not in the picture.
No, they're way up top.
All right, so you're following up on that.
Yeah,
Great.
like I said, he was supposed to, I talked to him today when I was in Grader, and he said he was gonna get me something by tonight, but he don't see it yet, so.
Haley, I just sent that image to you. So you have it in your inbox. Oh, sorry. Both of us did that.
All right.
We'll just wait till next time to look at the price program.
Well, if I get it, Lucian, I'll email it to you guys,
Okay,
so everybody knows the price on them and stuff.
that's good.
So the other thing that we're gonna do, it looks like next week we might actually have a good,
Weather window.
good day on Tuesday when we come back. To actually, we'll touch up the crosswalks and stuff. Get those brightened back up, and then we'll see if we can't make some kind of template that says, you know, stop and look. And we'll paint those right at the beginning of them. And I guess we'll go from there. I don't know what else changes we could actually do this late in the year. You know, parking spaces, I don't know. I mean, we'd have to grind them all. And then actually, you know, even if we got rid of them, people are still gonna park there, even if, you know. So there we go with enforcement again. You know, it's like during the springtime when there's no parking spots, you know, squared out. If there's a hole there, they're gonna park there, so. But-
Well, yeah, they park across the crosswalk all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just
Yeah.
because there's a space.
Yep.
It's consistent. But, what about, is there any thought about you know, since I talked to Sean about this briefly, since the tables are in the parking lot down there for the village diner, and we have those speed bumps in there that come out for winter anyway, did you guys talk about that at all? Potentially moving those speed bumps to maybe right at the end of Church Street?
Yeah, Tom and I.
Or,
I'm sorry.
you know, to just see whether we can slow people down, but Sean said there was something about signage that we had to.
What I was checking in is we had I'm sorry, she was asking you, but you want me to go?
No, you get
Sorry, I cut you off, Sherry, I apologize. We did have a chance to chat about it, and I asked Chief Cochran about it too, and he said what I would recommend for our next step is we should probably reach out to the League of Cities and Towns and see what they're recommending for a street where it's currently 25, and you know, and so I did that middle of the day today is when I had the opportunity. I didn't get feedback yet from the Municipal Assistance Center. So I wanted to do that as a first step, just to see what are the do's, don'ts, how could we go about this? If we did it, what would be the signage? So I'm trying to get that feedback from the league. Because as you point out, the ones we have in the village parking lot, well, we've got that block now for the picnic tables, so we could peel them up. Bear in mind, I think they'd be picked up about, what, the middle of October? But we got a little bit of time. If the league says, yeah, you can do it, here's how you go about it, we may have some time.
To do it as a trial.
Yeah, the challenge might be.
Experiment a little bit with whether or not it wouldn't curb the.
And see what feedback we get.
The challenge is, I think one of the hurdles will be that I'm assuming if they say yes, you can, then you're going to have to sign it, say speed bump ahead, right? Somebody doesn't have that sign, it damages their
Correct.
car.
You're going to have to have a signage down.
So I don't know that we would be able to get the signage, and I just don't know. I'm just saying what we got to do for some of the logistics.
Yeah.
So when you put those in, you put them in with a spikes or a rebar or something?
Tack on screws.
Okay, and does that screw up the pavement?
No, it just put a hole
makes a hole.
over it, but that's it.
Okay, well, I just didn't know.
No,
We're talking about to have any with the pavement, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
I don't know.
Messing around.
I just, yeah.
The portable signs that could just surprise people.
Well, you're definitely gonna have to put something on, you know, because you are putting an obstruction in a roadway.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
just
like a
like,
frost heave. I mean, you know, yeah. I don't know.
Well, we're
I
putting
just
it
think
there, it's still different.
it might be an interesting way to help people realize what speed they're really going.
I mean, we only have 3, but we'd have to put 2 of them side by side, because if you just put one, they'll go around it on that
Right.
street. So you'd have to put 2 of them across from each other, so,
You do
I
it
mean,
once.
we'd have one set.
Yeah.
What do they cost?
I think those right there, they weren't that much. I think they were 100 and something. We got them off Amazon.
No, it was like $460 for the 2 of them.
No, we got 3.
3, okay, so
Yeah,
it's 460
3 in the
for
end.
3 of them
Yeah.
then.
So they were
It's not a
lower.
budget break.
It's not too terrible.
No.
I think we should just go with the speed bump ahead signs. We don't worry about the speed bumps.
Yeah, just
Just the sign.
see if you can just get the sign first, yeah.
People would figure it out.
Yeah, but, you know, slowly.
Or we could put a
But
bunch of
honestly,
squirrels.
on West Church Street, half the time you can only go one lane anyway, so you
Yeah.
could put it in the middle and they wouldn't be able to get around it because you can't negotiate.
Well, you could way up on this end, Sherry, right next to the dentist's office, but down farther if you wanted,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so
Where
they'll
you
actually
want it.
slow down.
You
Because,
want
you
it
know,
there.
you'd have to pick at least definitely centered down there.
Yeah,
But it'd be better if you had 2.
Right.
definitely.
And you don't want people swerving to try to get around it.
No, that's
Yeah.
counterproductive. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
So, okay, so to summarize, Sean's looking into guidance about placement and what kind of rigmarole there is and when it's practical to do it as a test thing. Tom's getting pricing on the pedestrian signs. Are we in a position where you're just gonna, once you get the pricing and figure it out, you're just gonna do it? Is that where we're at?
Well, you give us a thumbs up or
Well,
thumbs
we
down.
budgeted, we did.
I think we
put
budgeted
some in
5,
the
right?
budget, so whether or not what we budgeted covers it would be,
But yeah, so you guys can manage
Budget.
that.
Just do it, it's in the budget, right?
So you, okay, so that's rolling.
Okay, again, I mean,
Right.
make it work with the budget. You're saying go, we'll go.
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Tom will get the price over to everybody just so you see it.
Yeah,
And then
right.
we'll.
Now, my opinion where to put it, I
Yeah.
would put one at the Village Diner, and the other one I would put down by the Buffalo Mountain Co-op.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that we wanted to do the swinging bridge cross anyway, even though,
That's the point.
It's just that,
The diner
I-
is getting a lot of traffic.
right, I mean, at least down by the clip joint,
Yeah,
at least the road widens,
Yeah.
and you can actually step out without actually getting hit.
usually.
I think. the
yeah,
one
it's
at-
often hard to see though when you're the pedestrian.
Right, but at least there's enough room and the cars aren't right tight to you
Yeah.
Yeah.
when you go around
Yeah,
that
it's not
corner.
as tight.
And it's just that there's so much stuff going on at the Village Diner.
Yeah.
When you're trying to turn around that corner with a truck,
Yeah.
you're looking in your mirrors, you're
Yeah.
looking over here at the car. You know, it's just that, I think the lights right there, right at that diner, I
Okay.
think would draw your attention quick. Those 2 spots, I think, are the blindest that we have for crossing.
So is this going just on one side of the road, or is it on?
We'll just put them on one side, we'll put them on the store side.
Yeah, okay.
Because at least on the other side, it's wide open. You should be able to see someone standing
yeah.
there on the sidewalk, right where the crosswalk is.
Okay.
But it's just like the other day when I was going up through there, I actually saw a mom and her child didn't even use the crosswalk. She came up and went over the corner of the bank and crossed the road
Yeah.
above the
Yeah.
bottom.
And that's the other thing that we were hoping maybe could happen sooner than later is
A fence.
putting one of
Fence.
those fences up.
It depends what type of fence you want.
You know, that
You want
kind
an
of
old
fence
farm
that we
rail
put.
fence or you want, you know,
Well,
Chain
it's
link.
just a barrier. So the
Split
fence
rail.
that, like the one that we put down on Daniels Road on Aaron's property back in the day. I mean, how much do those cost?
I
Are
don't
those
know. Like,
more or less than,
I think that was
something
part of
else?
the bike path stuff when we did that, I believe.
I think it mostly is gonna end up being a visual barrier and a clue to people like, oh, we don't go
just
that way.
don't go here?
So it could be, I think, as
So-
simple as a split rail fence. I mean,
Yeah.
Or anything. I mean,
Isn't
something that
what-
looks good.
Isn't that
would
what
be
he
good.
has down there? Isn't
Yes.
that what that's
Yep.
called?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I
it's
guess it
split rail.
could, I guess go down over the bank by the parking area. If it goes up above, it'll obstruct the view when you're coming around the
Yeah, you
corner.
want
so you
down
have-
low.
Right, no,
Yeah.
it's gonna have to be down low.
Down
Yeah,
below, okay.
and wherever down low that it's most out of the way for your work, I would say.
Oh, it's gonna be up on top.
So I just didn't, I wondered whether that isn't something we couldn't do before the snow flies.
Could it be something, in the wintertime, there's snowbanks there, so maybe it only needs
Well,
to be in the summer?
wintertime, I don't see anybody trying to crawl all those little banks.
Well, no, nobody.
But that's what I say, maybe it could be, I mean, maybe it's another maintenance thing, but maybe it could be removable in the wintertime so you could plow. Does that make any sense at all? I don't know.
No, because most of the time we don't try to push out that way.
We're not
We just
pushing it up
try to
the
push
hill.
one way or the other.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the snow goes down the parking lot and way down by the old flood zone.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
Right, so we'll think about
Yeah,
the fence.
Tom's the one that saw somebody cross there. I don't know. I've seen it happen many times, but. you know.
Electric fence?
Good.
We should put the little signs, warning, electric fence. Yeah.
Just get the signs, is that what
Just get the signs, warning, electric fence. All right, I'm gonna move us on. Next up is item 5, which is well refurbishment. And this is, we do this, I can't remember how often, it's every few years? 5?
Every 5.
Doesn't seem like it's been 5 years. All right, so it's every 5 years, so we have to do this refurbishment to the wells periodically, and this year it looks like the estimate is $36,000, and we could authorize Sean to execute that contract and get it going. Questions? Motions?
So moved.
Second,
We do have it set, we have more than that in the reserve capital line item.
That's good to know.
Because we've been doing good planning on this for a number of years.
Right, and it's periodic.
And this
It has
is,
to keep
this is
coming up.
important preventative maintenance.
Every 5 years.
That's what he said, it doesn't seem like it's been 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion about the well refurbishment and having Sean go ahead and execute the contract to get it done? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I think that was everybody.
I
Thank
actually have a
you.
question, just a quick question on that. It's
Yeah.
a little late now, but, there it says pre and post cleaning video, it says yes, no on there?
We had to choose, so I think we're doing now, right?
Oh,
That's an extra
I'm sorry, Lucian.
$50.
Ask it again, I'm sorry.
The
Oh, there
pre
was
and
the-
post cleaning video,
Yeah?
he's asking about whether you're doing it.
there's a yes, no on there, so I just
If
wanna
you're
make
the
sure.
optional task,
Yeah. There's a no.
That's a no.
You
Okay.
don't want it.
I don't know, we had it.
Sometimes it's good.
Where are you at?
It's only $750. Can you guys figure it out?
per well,
We don't.
so it's 15.
Oh, if they wanna do it.
What? If you want to do it, go ahead, and if you don't want to do it,
It just like shows your screen down below and what condition it is and everything else in your well casing and,
Did we do it last cycle, Tom?
yep.
I would advocate for it. Right?
It just shows everything good.
Having a record's important.
Yeah.
Right?
Good to know.
you guys can watch that on your own time, Liz says. Those videos.
It's not a wastewater collection video, Wiz.
All right, thank you, that's great. Item 6 is to discuss waivers on the petitions for signatures for 2021. These are petitions for help me.
Papers or appropriations.
Appropriations, to get on the warning for the town meeting for appropriation, and we have 3 organizations that would be up for, so every 3 years, our policy says you have to come back with another petition. I believe the purpose of that policy is that we want to still see that there's support in the community for having that on the warning for town meeting. This year is a little unusual in that going around door to door and mixing with other people you don't normally mix with is frowned upon in the time of COVID. So the question is, can we waive, just for this year, the need to get a petition to stay on the warning if you're already there?
If we waive them, do we have to waive candidates?
We don't have to,
You mean new asks?
right?
Well, new requests, yes, but also if somebody decides to run for the select board, are
Oh,
they
that's
waived
different, I think.
with setting up
It's
a,
different, yeah.
how is it different?
I don't think that that's set through a select board policy, but I'd have to check.
I believe
It's a
that,
different
yeah.
number as well. It's,
I think that might be
for
in
the
statute.
appropriations, you have to get,
5%?
more than, for select board, you only have to get
It's like 20.
36 or something,
That
and
was
that's
less.
just to be safe. It's fewer than that.
Yeah.
For the appropriations, you have to get like 120 or 130.
I would have to check to,
But it's the same activity, it's making the
is.
same request.
it
Yeah, it's just a
is-
lot easier to get the select board one.
Right.
Because you can do that, like
Standing down at the grocery
at the
store.
post, outside of the post office, because they won't let you stand inside or
Right.
whatever.
And I'm not sure that we control that, is my main reservation on that.
Not sure we control what.
That's
With needing signatures for a petition to run for office.
It's probably the Secretary of State and
I
not
think
us.
so.
Yeah.
So I'd have to
Alberta
check.
has to give that to the Secretary of State.
In any case, the item before us is just the petitions for folks who already have, in the past, had appropriations.
What about new requests?
I think new requests would have to
Still do it.
get signatures.
Go through the process.
I think so.
How is it less dangerous, or not dangerous for them, when it's dangerous for these people?
I don't know that it's,
They can't do an online petition?
No, no, you have to do it in person.
Has to be signatures.
so,
Here was my theory, because the townhouse is one of the groups that is supposed to redo their thing. And so I was thinking that, we have to do this is for town meeting day, so it gets turned in January.
yeah,
So my grand plan was to, be at the polls in November
oh,
and
yeah,
ask people to sign the petition at the polls.
yeah,
But I wasn't certain, whether that was okay,
yeah.
since the post office won't let you stand inside there. But you wouldn't want to
You wouldn't
at
be able
this
to
point,
stand inside
because
the
it's
polls.
inside anyway, but
But you
that's
could
how
say-
I was gonna do it. So we could put this off and make this decision after and suggest to all of these groups that that is a method to get signatures for Hardwick voters, for your petition.
Or for
Just
any
go
town.
ahead and do it. And if,
So
if
I
you
think,
can't get it, come back in December and say, look, we tried and we can't get enough signatures. Just move the date up.
so what I would like to do is I'd like to go ahead and waive, basically give those 3 organizations another year. Say you can have one more year. You normally have 3, but we'll give you one more.
I like that better.
And then anybody new still has to get signatures, because otherwise, I can just come in and say, yep, I want Eric's skiing and grooming on the morning.
Right. I think I like that idea. Just
bump out them.
We're just giving them a 4th year.
Yeah.
So anybody new, just saying, you could do it at the polls.
And yeah, and if anybody new, yeah,
That's the
Sherry's
place
got
to
a
find
grand
Hardwick
plan.
voters, is
There we go.
in
November at the polls, and you have to stay outside, I think. You can't
Yeah.
do that inside.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Go ahead.
So, and I might not have totally heard all of that, so if I misunderstood, that's probably why. But so just to clarify, so we're saying that those who are up for appropriations this year are getting a fourth year, whereas typically they would only get 3. Is that what I heard?
Yep.
Yes.
So what happens with all the other organizations that will continue to get 3, or are we giving everybody a fourth year?
No, everybody's on a 3-year, yeah. Everybody stays 3.
Except for
There-
these.
Only this one time, it's only this one time.
I don't think she understands that there's only 3 organizations that
And there's only 3 organizations this year that are up. So
And what are those organizations?
Townhouse is one.
NEK Arts, Northeast Kingdom Council on Aging, and RCP.
And the rest are in their 3 years, and they don't have to re-up.
And we're planning to be COVID-free next year, just so everyone knows.
Yeah.
I do like Sherry's idea. I think that's probably a very, you don't necessarily have to have a person there. If voting is going to happen, we haven't gotten there yet, but that seems reasonable. If there are going to be signatures needed, that seems like a great place to do it.
I haven't heard of the question come up yet with the Secretary of State about petitions. I've only heard the discussion about the vote issue.
Yeah.
So this is going to be coming up.
Yeah.
I was trying to find it as you all were talking, but I don't see any guidance on
It
this.
seems like a good question for them, Sean, because I'm sure this is coming up.
Yeah.
But for these 3, we're gonna waive it.
And then if something else comes up, we can.
I would love to have a motion to that effect so we can move on.
So moved. I move that we give these 3 specific agencies a fourth year,
Just this once.
just this once.
Yeah.
In reaction to the unusual circumstances of living through a pandemic,
There we go.
or at least planning to live through the pandemic.
All right, any more discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 I'll abstain just because I'm part of one of the organizations.
I am not in favor of that.
So we got 3 ayes, 1 abstention, and 1 nay. Thank you. Motion passes. Next is, item 7 is, we need to send a delegate to the VLCT meeting as the completely riveting subject of insurance, the passive and the other one, and we would like to nominate Sean to go be our voting delegate.
Choice, huh?
For all that fun.
For
And it's
all-
online this year. It's a virtual.
Oh,
meeting.
okay, that could be
Virtual
better.
meeting. Which is too bad. That's where we are.
So moved.
Second?
Any more discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That was everyone anyway. So motion carries on that. Any select board reports?
We might have a wedding at the townhouse if they can figure out how to do it. I think there's only gonna be 30 people or something, and, yeah, so I think this month even.
Cool.
It's September now. That's a possibility.
A ray of hope. Any other select board reports?
You wanna say anything about, so just to remind people that the next select board meeting is the deadline for sending an inquiry of interest to be part of the equity committee. And it was on the posting that people are encouraged to come to this meeting when that meeting that night to talk about themselves or whatever, but it's certainly not required. That's sort of more, I mean, there are plenty of times that we've appointed library trustees and such without them actually being here. It's actually more useful when it's HED commissioners because of the type of experience that is needed there. But I just wanted to remind people that that's open.
Great.
It's September 14th at 3 o'clock is our deadline, and they can submit submissions to me at the town manager's office, Sean Duckfielder at hardwickvt.org.
So by email or mail?
It could be either way, but just with the mail, I'm just gonna have to say it, just make sure you're doing it enough time so we receive it.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any in yet?
We've had 2 come in.
Oh, good. All right, new business or old business?
I just have 2 quick things, but I can wait.
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. One first thing is just thinking about my experience tonight and just wondering if, so I made the call not to be there because I had a few symptoms that are COVID related and I'm going to be taking a test as soon as I can. I'm just wondering if we want to have, just been thinking about that and we haven't really talked about that. Do we want to have, a lot of organizations or businesses say if you have respiratory symptoms or symptoms of COVID, then you shouldn't participate or be in this building. I'm just wondering if we want to talk about that at some point and have kind of a plan, as Eric said earlier, for if meetings may or may not need to be a little more virtual. Maybe we have them be a little more virtual friendly for those of you who are there in person and those of us who are not in person. So I'd love to talk about that at some point. And then I also would love if we have room in the next agenda to talk a little bit more about the, I mentioned this for the last meeting, coming up with a plan to meet with the HED commissioners. I'd love to kind of have that be on an agenda at some point.
Yep. Yeah, I was actually thinking about the meeting with HED commissioners too, actually today. And we should try to move that forward soon. Yeah, and then, so I will take that and try to get us something to work on. And as far as COVID symptoms, you are correct. There are signs on all the doors to this building saying not to enter if you have COVID symptoms. And yes, we do need to have something that's a little more virtual friendly. I'm not sure yet what that is.
I think we're good in person and we're good strictly virtual. It's the hybrid thing that gets
Exactly.
So I think that's what we need to work on.
Yep.
And what was there's been mention of microphones. It's mostly about hearing the people.
Yeah, I wasn't able to, I was trying to get microphones for the Zoom side of it, and I wasn't able to, and then what happened last meeting was we were getting the feedback loop on the HCTV mic, so the technology is a little bit tricky, so we're trying to get it figured out.
Oh, okay.
Sean and I talked a little bit today about like a smart TV. If we did something like a smart TV on the wall then we could have the Zoom video type thing, but we'll have to see.
What if we reconsider the townhouse?
For virtual people?
No,
How does that-
for in person and set it up and spread everybody out and.
But the issue is more like when you have somebody who's coming in virtually, how do we accommodate that?
So a smart TV, it would hear us and it would send their voice out and we'd see them on the screen, like Haley would be up here. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, we just quickly thought about, well, the first step is I am going to reach out to Leaf early next week and get his advice on the audio side of this. So that's the first thing I did. I ran out of time in advance of this meeting to do that. And then the other thing I thought about is if we had a smart TV, whether it's on the wall or tripoded, for those times when somebody's trying to zoom in, would that help us? Just so we can have the video as opposed to the phone. It's tricky. We're all trying to figure out what's the best way to go. My opinion is,
Sean?
Yeah, go ahead, Kelly.
I was just going to say, obviously this is something that every school in Vermont and the country and the world is trying to figure out, and there's some really great tools that I'll share with you tomorrow that we are going to be using for the district.
Thank you, that'd be great.
Okay, good, yeah.
One more comment,
Yeah.
because I got my new electric bill, and I don't know if anybody else noticed, but in the little notes on the bottom of the bill this month, the first time I've ever seen it, it invites the public to their open meetings.
Wow, does it give a date?
they say when the meetings are each month.
Wow,
I don't remember what it said,
what
but
did that say?
that's the first time I've ever seen that, so
Nice,
that's kind of
Yeah,
good.
that's
yeah,
good.
that's great.
But I don't know where they're having those meetings that they could bring the public in, because if it's in that little upstairs room, that wouldn't really work.
You know, I went to their meeting a couple meetings ago, and they had it here.
Oh, they did,
Nice.
Yep,
so they could have it on AC.
they could.
Huh, that's good.
Yeah,
Too.
awesome.
I don't know if, I didn't ask them why they were having it here, but I assume it's COVID related, but I don't know.
Yeah, more space.
Any other new business, old business? Adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Wow, that was a marathon.